uniforms on both sides, but we're actually going to start tonight in probably the most meaningful way we can. We're going to see some of our students. We are going to then hold the joint meeting with Union 31 and Salt Lake Regional Schools immediately following the student presentation. Joy?
So tonight we have something really special. We have our art teachers, Hannah Close and Rachel, and they brought in some students with some of the incredible artwork that you see behind you, and they're all going to tell you a little bit about them, and many of them are award-winning. I want to point out, for those of you on the Joint Committee, the Silver Lake Budget Book is all students' artwork, and we have done that for several years. So if you would like to take a minute, we have incredible student artists that do the work for us every year, and it really just showcases it. So it's the first time we've had our students come in and discuss their artwork, and I really want to thank them for taking the time to do that. And for those of you who don't know, only because while the artists are here, behind me is a butterfly picture that I was given yesterday at a surprise retirement party that all the students made all the different butterflies throughout K through 12. And they were all glued on, and then a high school student did the calligraphy for the artwork. So I'm just thrilled. So if you get a chance, take a look at it. It really is quite a treasure for me to get to keep. So, Hannah, do you want to go forward?
Sure. My name is Hannah Close. I'm one of the high school art teachers along with Rachel McGuire. And it is my pleasure to share with you that all of these works here, from the red block print all the way down to the bone painting over here, are all going to regional art shows. The ones on the left-hand side were all into juried shows, which means that they were put up against a whole bunch of other high school artwork and then picked from. This one over here and this one over here are both going to UMass Dartmouth, has a student high school art show that they were juried into. And then these other ones are going to Boston to a show called Recognitions. And then the other ones down the other end are going to a show in Boston as well. And I have two students who very graciously offered to come in and briefly tell you a little bit about their art and their experience in the art department. So Tristan is this photograph over here, which actually
Wow.
Actually had this work juried into two different shows, so it's going to UMass Dartmouth show and to the Recognition show in Boston, which is pretty amazing.
Wow.
So Tristan, you want to?
That's amazing.
This is Tristan Manning.
Hi.
Interesting.
Hi.
I'm a junior. I moved here from Nantucket back in August. So yeah, this is my first experience with like a big school. And I'm really glad that Silver Lake has like the opportunity to have a big art department and especially have a specific photography course, because I feel like a lot of students forget and other people that arts are for the people that some who are athletic but also the ones that aren't too. So it's another opportunity for them to do their passion through education, and some people like me specifically want to pursue this as a further career. So yeah, I think it's important, and I'm really glad that I've been getting this experience. So yeah.
Tristan.
Yes.
Well said.
Thank you.
Can I ask you about your piece?
Yeah.
Is there a double exposure there, or did you put some graphics?
No, it's all unfiltered, unedited, not even saturated, very lightly edited at least. I took it, it's actually my cousin. I took it at an arcade and I took it through a grabber window. So it's through the glass. So all the reflections you're seeing are of other video games that are
Wow.
yeah,
Oh,
and
wow.
it's series. I have multiple different ones from that shoot. So yeah.
Very cool. Thank
Yes.
you for sharing.
Yeah.
I got that
Thank
picture.
you. I'm very glad you
And Sarah Anderson had her work juried into the MAEA, Massachusetts Art Education Association Recognition Show. Sarah, do you want to briefly tell them a little bit about your piece?
Hi, my name is Sarah Anderson. I'm a junior, I would just like to say I'm really thankful for all the opportunities that the art department has provided me with, such as the amazing field trips, the special guest artists, and all the people from the colleges. I really get to see what it's going to be like in the future. So this is my piece. It is a drawing of a previous project that we had to make a paper sculpture. It is white chalk on black paper.
Could you turn that? Yeah. Thanks.
Where will you be presenting your pieces?
So this one is going to Boston to a show called Recognitions, where the Massachusetts Art Education Association juries the work. I think it was about a 40% acceptance rate, maybe even a little bit less than that this year. And so it's going to be at the State Transportation Building in Boston. And in terms of works, our experience has been actually, as a photography department, we've been very successful. As a fine art drawing department, in painting, we've been slightly less successful because we're competing against other schools that have a much stronger elementary and particularly middle school program. But Sarah has a lot of drive to do work independently, and that is showing in the refinement of her work and has resulted in her show.
Are you excited about your opportunity to display your piece in Boston?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
I have a question. So are you thinking of, when you go to college, are you going to study art, or are you going to do something else but still continue to do art on the side?
I'll probably still continue to do art on the side.
My daughter did a lot of art here at Silver Lake, and then she's studying criminal justice now, but she's taken multiple art classes in college, and she still loves it. And she loved all her time here at the middle school and the high school. So we have a great program here, and thanks to all the teachers.
Yeah, this senior class actually, these are both juniors by coincidence, but the senior class, we have probably the highest number of kids applying to art schools that I've seen as long as I've been here in my 15 years. So going from to RISD and Pratt, and a few of them I've even found out we have one student already looking to enter Maine College of Art and Design. So hoping good luck for them, for the others.
You had said this is white chalk on black paper?
Yes.
You did this by hand?
Yes.
It looks like a photograph.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Yeah, I thought it was photographed.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. Your shadowing is phenomenal. Yeah.
There's a lot of hours of practice behind that drawing.
Are those origami that are the
Yes,
paper
so-
folding?
Yeah, we had to make a paper sculpture for one of our previous projects.
Yeah, this is actually one of the other students' paper sculptures that was juried into a different show.
So is that the drawing of that?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, cool.
Right, so
Yeah.
they
That's
drew the
awesome.
they built the sculpture, and then and it's inspired by the artist Louise Nevelson. If you've heard her, she did a lot of wood sculptures, all painted white, and then went on to the drawing from there.
Wow, that's phenomenal.
Very impressive.
Thank you.
Did you do the original art you drew after? Because that piece of art by you with Anna's piece of art you did?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, so she built the sculpture inspired by Louise Nevelson, and then did the drawing of the
Right,
sculpture.
yeah.
Fantastic. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Rachel McGuire. So as a follow-up, this just came in the mail this week. This is our copy of Celebrating Art. It's an annual of kind of juried art from across the Northeast. And Sarah, here's her self-portrait from last year that got printed in it. Nice. Yeah, very, so proud. And as a follow-up, I also wanted to mention, at the Kingston Public Library until January, and the end of January, we have our show of the senior self-portraits, our endangered animals from Studio Art 2, and a bunch of these stand-ups that we originally made to be around the library for the last exhibit that was here. And they're going to be on display at the Kingston Public Library, 6 Green Street. And our reception, if you want to come and meet the artist, will be Saturday, the January 25th from 2 o'clock. All right, so, and the self-portraits, like we said, they're very strong. Like, we have such a strong group, and they really did a great job with their self-portraits. They stretch the canvases themselves, and they're just really, really nice. So I would love for you guys to be able to go to the library, and get out their art. So,
Well, I appreciate you reaching out to the community in that
of course.
way.
Yeah,
You know,
very
a lot of people in the community don't have any relationship with the schools. They don't have students in any of our buildings. So for you to reach back out to the community with the work our students are doing and the good work the teachers are doing, we appreciate you.
I think my first show was at the Kingston Library back in the day, so it was really important to have your work on display and see that interaction.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Hopefully they'll let us do it every year. That's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. All set. Thank you.
So I'd like to officially call the Silver Lake Regional School Committee meeting to order at 6:14 today on January 9th, 2020.
I'd like to call the union side at 6:14 as well.
So just who's following along in the audience, we're going to have a joint meeting right now between Union 31 and the Silver Lake Regional School Committee. We're going to approve some minutes. We are going to speak with our candidate for assistant superintendent. And at the conclusion of that conversation, we will be adjourning the joint meeting, and Silver Lake will continue its own school committee meeting for the remainder of the week. So, do I have a motion to accept from the region the regular session minutes of December 17th, 2019?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion from the region? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous, thank you. Okay, abstain. Thank you, Ed. Everyone voted yes, Ed abstains. Thank you, Ed.
Can I get a motion on the union side to approve the regular session minutes for December 17, 2019?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'll also entertain an approval to accept the executive session minutes from our December 17, 2019 meeting with the intention to hold those minutes.
There isn't really any executive session.
There are none.
That was an error in the agenda. I
Perfect.
apologize.
No problem. That's quick. All right, just for protocol reasons, I wanted to acknowledge before we move into anything that needs a more official vote than just approving of our minutes, that 3 of us on the committee for the region are also on Union 31 as well. That would be Eric, myself, and Mike. So if you see us voting during both parts, that's because we actually hold seats on both committees. All right. So, Jill, would you like to make the introduction?
Sure, I'd
of our
love to.
candidate for assistant superintendent?
Absolutely. I'm pleased to introduce Ryan Lynch, our candidate for Assistant Superintendent. Ryan has a very strong background in curriculum instruction and assessment, has a devotion to meeting the needs of all learners, has a growth mindset. I've had the pleasure of working with Ryan before in Situate Public Schools, and so I'm also confident in our ability to work together. Ryan graduated from Notre Dame for his bachelor's degree. He then went on to Brown University for his master's degree and completed an educational leadership program at Bridgewater State University. He has I believe, over 17 years of experience as a classroom teacher. He has served as a classroom teacher for English Language Arts. He has been a K through 12 department head. And he also most recently served as a middle school principal. So he brings a wealth of experience, knowledge, wonderful characteristics, and I think we would be very lucky to have Ryan on our team.
Good evening. Thank you for coming tonight to speak with us. Would you like to introduce yourself to the committee?
I'd like to say thank you, Joe, for that introduction. As I explained at the beginning, Jason and I had a quick conversation. At the beginning of this process, I researched about Silver Lake, and every meeting that I came to, with the large group of 18 at the beginning and then the smaller group, I've learned more and more good things happening in the district, and it's just made me very excited to have an opportunity to possibly join it. So I really appreciate from my first entrance into the high school, the greeter who isn't that, I'm not sure what you call it.
Kiosk.
Kiosk. I met Sue, and from that point on, everyone has just been so positive and proud and professional, and every interaction I have just makes me more excited to potentially be part of the team here. In addition to what Jill said, I grew up on the South Shore. I'm a product of a public high school. I believe in the power of schools and the value of public service. My mother is a retired high school principal, and that really inspired me to see the kind of work that school districts can do to change lives. And I feel lucky to be in a role where I can continue to do that. And I think my experiences as a classroom teacher and as a middle school principal can help me to be effective.
Excellent. Thank you. Would anybody from either committee like to address Ryan and ask him some questions to get to know him a little bit better? I will. See nobody jumping at it. The build to this point in your career is rather unique, that you were so long in the classroom and in the trenches, which is something that many of us have said many, many times that we would really look for in someone coming forth in an administrative position. How do you think your time in the classroom will aid you in being the second from the top in a school district? How will it help you relate to the teachers, help bring change to us as a region, and really influence the classrooms and the kids in particular?
That's a good question, and I think that sometimes it says a lot about the district that was something that you looked for. Sometimes people would say, well, it's more important to have lots and lots of administrative experience, but when in the role as assistant superintendent, I think it's critical that people understand the demands that are on classroom teachers, and by serving as a teacher, it's such an important role, and teachers do amazing work with students, and I think that when we deliver and help with professional development, teachers need to be listened to, and also given professional development that they're a part of, and also that's really applicable to their work, because caring for the needs of the students that are in front of them, and that's their primary work, and when you work with them, the professional development needs to be high quality. So I really think that my experience as a classroom teacher, being able to relate to that, and then also working as a principal to ensure that my teachers got high quality professional development, has prepared me to be effective in that role. So I appreciate the challenges that come with teaching, and teachers are really, I learned this as a principal, that I can't change the experience of the 719 kids in my building. Who's doing that on a daily basis for classroom teachers? Because they're spending 95% of the time. I can have a friendly conversation in the lunchroom with students and things like that, but it's teachers that are doing the work. So that's how I think my experience is as a teacher and as a principal and curriculum coordinator can help.
Thank you. Laura.
Hi, Ryan. I'm Laura Zorn from Kingston. So this is kind of like Jason's question, I guess, but one of the words that often goes with assistant superintendent is the word initiative. So in the way that there's always new things coming down the pike, and part of the role is to sort of figure out, okay, well, what part of what's happening in my district fits with sort of what's out there and best practices and things like that. So how, as a leader, do you bridge that sort of being a leader and knowing where you want to take things with, not having things come down from the top? What's that balance like for you?
Yeah, I think when you say initiative, I think it makes, it's not people's favorite word because it means more work. I think the other word that people
There's lots of good words.
Yeah, people hear initiative fatigue is the new, I think it's the new version of that. But I think we really have to look at what is what's the value? So for example, in my first interview here, there was a question about the evaluation process, and someone asked, well, what do you think about it and what's really valuable? So there's an example of a new initiative, the overhaul of the evaluation system. And there are pieces of that, and people can look at the new rubric, but the goal setting aspect that you can work with educators on, I think every district can say, now teachers have an opportunity to craft a student learning goal and professional practice goal, and I think there's real value in that for anyone. So, I mean, in January, they set a resolution for themselves and they say, here's what I want to do better, and I think every person can think about, what do I want to do and get better at? And so I think you look at an initiative and you say, where is the real value that we can connect with? And then that's one piece. And the other piece is, how can you protect people from the parts of it that, as an assistant superintendent, I'll have to do a lot of work that says, here's how we comply with ABC and where, supplementing, not supplanting, and all those things like that. So I think it's minimizing the pieces that are less attractive but that have to be done. That would be my role. And also moving forward the pieces that have value. So I think that's an example of an initiative it was new for everyone, scary, because it was about evaluating performance, but also what are the pieces that we can all agree on and that will help to make us better.
Go ahead.
So I'm Eric from Kingston on both the Kingston Elementary and the regional school committees. I have a question about one of the issues that a lot of public schools in Massachusetts are having are charter schools and losing students to charter schools. There's only certain things that we can do to prevent losing students to the charter schools, and also taking that money from our budget. Obviously, with tightening budgets, that's more and more of a concern, and we don't want to lose as many kids at the younger grades or through high school to those charter schools. Is there anything that you can think of that we could do to help prevent that? And I know public schools are under a little bit more limitation than a charter school in terms of what sort of education we can provide. But project-based learning and other initiatives that charter schools can do that we typically don't do. But do you see anything that we could do to help prevent some of the loss of those students?
It's a good question. I think one of the things that I think is really important is just number one, communicating the success that's already happening here. So, for example, just the 10 minutes that I've been here to see, Tristan's work and for Sarah, for them to show their work and to be proud of it, to have it published in art shows and things like that, and to hear somebody say, I came from a smaller district that didn't have these opportunities, and these are the opportunities I have now. And not just, he made reference to some students finding themselves in success in athletics, but other students in other areas. And I think that sharing that out, if kids can find a connection with adults, be it a public school or a charter school, I think that's what good schools do. And I think that every opportunity that you have in Silver Lake to share out the success and create really meaningful interactions, I think would keep kids. And that's my first idea, is just sharing out the success that already happens. And I think that goes a long way. When kids feel part of the community, I don't think that they look around too much for other places.
Anybody else? So this might be a strange odd request, but I know some of you were on the committee that met with Ryan during the process. And Ryan, you were brought before us tonight with unanimous support from that committee. I would just like to hear what made you so confident bringing him before us tonight as the singular candidate as our assistant superintendent.
Okay. I think all eyes may be on me. I was the one that I was privileged to be on the committee of 18, and then I was on the smaller committee of 6. And Ryan, as I believe he's already showed tonight, he was very optimistic and very positive, and every one of the questions that we asked of him, which were pretty heavy questions, was answered very thoroughly and also with a lot of optimism for our district, but also with a lot of knowledge about our district already. He mentioned several things about our different buildings, about Plimpton being the smallest district, about ways to bring the 3 towns together to collaborate more. He mentioned a lot of things about teacher collaboration to help all of our teachers be the most successful. He had a lot of positive things to say, a lot of great answers, and he had us laughing. He kept everything very, I think, lighthearted, and when he left, we were all just like, okay. And then I think we were really, really, really sold on him quickly from that second interview in particular. But I believe Ryan's vision and his, he mentioned project-based learning, to go back to project-based learning. He mentioned opening the new Gates Middle School and all of his experience with the construction from start to finish. And he really seemed to have a good relationship with many of his former colleagues and all of his students, and just everything was very positive. And I think that we can use that in Silver Lake going forward with new beginnings. And I'm very excited for Ryan to come into the district, and I hope everyone supports the vote.
Well said. That's the insight I was looking for. I appreciate you bringing forth that on behalf of the committee that looked at the candidates. And thank you for your work on that committee as well, and anyone else who was involved in the process.
I wasn't part of that committee, but in reviewing materials with your background, your resume, etc., finding that you and Jill have worked together before, sometimes it's hard when somebody comes in to get a rhythm going. And obviously there's some familiarity, you've worked together before. There, I would think there would be like an immediate gel of, moving into the team. And that's a big hurdle that you've already jumped over. And that's a wonderful thing for the district. You're that much more ahead in the process, and I was excited about that. That was a huge positive.
Anyone else from either group?
I would agree. Sometimes you can have a qualified candidate and a talented candidate, but if the superintendent and the assistant superintendent don't share the same vision for students, because there are some things that we come to the table with that are based in educational philosophy. And to know, even as Ryan's answering the questions, I'm agreeing with his answers, and to feel that sense of agreement with someone who's going to be working with you, and through celebrations and through difficulties, and knowing how, I worked with Ryan for over 5 years, so I've seen his consistency, and I have no doubt in his abilities, and I'm really excited about the possibility of working with him again. So, thank you.
Actually, something you oversaw building being constructed. I know that there's probably some time that you were both here, at least one building that nobody was. Can you give me some insight on how it was difficult dealing with the contractors and such forth. Oversight.
It's a great learning experience. And the best part of the process is the beginning, where you talk about an educational vision for students. So you have an opportunity to say, how should school be for our community? So it's a great learning experience. Construction meetings are different than meetings like this. And I don't mean it's more about this needs to be done by this time, and why isn't it done? And it's all about the work, and it really feeds. There's not a lot of nuance, and I think I learned a lot that way. And a big component isn't even the $70 million building. It's preparing the community and the human beings to inhabit that space and to really take advantage of it and see the value in it. So we left a 100-year-old 500-person building and moved into one with 750 students and added a grade, and there was amazing engineering that happened technically, but I do think the most important accomplishment was working together as a team to ensure that transition went smoothly. Kids felt safe and prepared, families felt, they could drop their students off and things were going in the right direction, the community was proud of it, and so it's really a professional development experience. So I did learn a lot about it, change orders and public bidding process and all those elements. It's exciting, it's a lot of work, but it's also very exciting. And the middle school here and the high school here, both of which I've been in, are in very good shape, and that people are proud of their buildings, and it's how you introduce your community to sometimes outsiders. And so when you have an opportunity to do one, they're challenging, but also there's a lot of positive that comes from it.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Well, from the region, then, I would appreciate a motion to approve and support Ryan Lynch as the next assistant superintendent.
Oh, boy. Oh, geez.
Are you guys all that flawless?
No, but they just want to make fun of you right now.
So moved. Lisa, did you get that the way I meant it?
I will make a motion.
So Ed has made the motion. You want a second? Sure. Any further discussion from the region? All those in favor? All right, it's unanimous from the region.
I move that we support and, what was the other word? See, now I'm losing it. Approve and support Ryan Lynch as our new Assistant Superintendent of Silver Lake Regional School District.
Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Jason, that's how it's supposed to be done.
Just with minimal interruption.
Feeling the love.
Small glitch.
Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you, Ryan.
Congratulations.
Working with you, congratulations. At this moment, it looks like we have no further business for Union 31 Regional School Committee. I will entertain a motion to adjourn from the region for joint meeting. All right, second. All those in favor?
I move we adjourn 31, Union 31.
Second.
Aye. You kids have fun.
About 4 minutes until we get to the
4.
business of the region.
Not 5, 4.
We have 4.
Thank you.
We're in recess for 4 minutes. Region at 6:43 p.m. And tonight we have Grady Connor here to discuss our E&D certification. Grady? Thanks for coming down, appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much. My name's Grady Connor. I'm with the audit firm Lynch, Marini and Associates. We're the auditors for the Silver Lake Regional School District. And as Superintendent Christine asked me again this year to come in and give you a little overview of the region's excess and deficiency, more commonly known as E&D. E&D is a calculation from the Department of Revenue. It's strictly a Department of Revenue calculation. It's not what we do as auditors for the financial statements of the district under GAAP. But it's an important tool for regions in the budget process. It basically determines what a district can potentially use in the budget from their fund balance. Again, the calculation is set forth under Mass General Law, Chapter 71, Section 16B and a half, and requires all regional school districts to maintain an excess and deficiency fund, which is essentially unreserved fund balance. And that law also limits what a regional school district can maintain in that fund. And it's based upon a year-end filing every June 30th. A balance sheet is required to be submitted to DOR on or before November 30th of each year. If a district doesn't meet that requirement, DOI can withhold local aid. The district has filed it, as you know, and you folks do meet the deadline every year. DOI does the calculation based upon that balance sheet, and the balance is certified as of July 1, and it allows the district the amount certified to be appropriated until the following June 30th, okay? Certified E&D can be used in whole or in part as a funding source for the proposed budget. Any excess E&D of 5% of the subsequent year operating budget and capital has to be returned to the member towns as part of the reduction of the assessments. So potential reductions in the amount that DOR calculates. So the starting point is the district's unreserved fund balance as of June 30th, and then they subtract any deficit balances, any receivables or prepaid items that are on the balance sheet as of June 30th. A few years back, DOR started giving the districts the actual calculation. Years ago, it was just here's your dollar amount. Now they provide the backup of how they got there. But as of June 30th, the balance sheet that the district submitted for certification, the general fund balance was about $2 million. Of that, about $867,000 has been reserved for capital improvements. $168,000 are the carryover encumbrances that were obligations at June 30th to be spent in fiscal 20. So the unreserved amount was about $937,000 where the DOR was starting at. And the calculation just came back. They just certified E&D yesterday. And as I say here, about 937, there were about $31,000 of reductions for some timing differences on deficits at year end on timing issues and some other small items. So the E&D that they certified was about $906,000. Again, the fiscal 20 budget, as you know, is about $28.2 million. So 5% of that would have been 1.4. So you're about $500,000 below what you would have been able to keep anyways. So again, the district has been, pretty close to that number of what you could keep anyways in the last number of years. So you're in a pretty good position with the E&D. So that's my presentation. I don't know if anybody has any questions or anything.
It's a great explanation of E&D and what it is and how it's calculated and how DOR comes up with the number. Do any of you have any questions for Grady tonight? So, Grady, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Appreciate your time for us tonight as well.
Yeah. Really good work. Silver colors.
Oh, yeah, did you play that?
No, I didn't. As he said, it's like, yeah, have a good night. Thank you.
Eric?
I'd like to make a motion that we take the discussion item of the budget out of order and do that now.
Do I have a second to Eric's proposal? Paul, second. Any discussion? All those in favor of taking the budget out of order? Aye. Any against? Any abstentions? All right, we'll take the budget out of order.
Thank you very much. So we have before us the fiscal 2021 budget, well, I'll save the other part. So that's not going to get me started. Well, I'll do that later. So the budget this year, a tremendous amount of work went into building the budget, which happens every year. You remember Marie Grable came in. She did a wonderful special education PowerPoint that's included in your budget book. Steve Pello came in. He did a presentation about our technology. Both Michaela and Jim worked very diligently to bring forth the needs of their buildings. Jill, Christine, and I have been meeting on quite a regular basis to build the budget. Over the years, we've designed this budget book, which I think everybody has found very helpful. It provides all the information about what makes our budget and how we go about building our budget. One of my goals has always been, and I'm sure will be continued in the district, is to be very transparent in our budget building process. So Carl has the same budget book, Fred has the same budget book as you have. You're receiving them at the same time. You have the exact same information. So I want you to know that, this budget has been built so that everybody can work together to have the towns work with us and to provide the budgets that's needed to maintain our schools. So when we started looking at the numbers, which, by the way, if you're not aware, we're doing 5 budgets simultaneously. So Monday night was Halifax, budget presentation. Tonight is Silver Lake, I think that's where I am. And then next Monday is Kingston, and then the week after that is Plymouth. So we also have shared costs sort of in the middle of all that. So it's a tremendous amount of budgets, it's a huge amount of information, and they fit together like a puzzle. So you have to make sure all the pieces are rounded, the edges are rounded appropriately, and the pieces fit well together. So before I get too much further, I don't know if everybody realizes or appreciates the amount of work Christine does and the hours. If you come by on weekends, you will often see her car there because it's one of the few times she can come in and it's quiet and I'm not bothering her. So she, teasing, but she does. She comes in when it's quiet and is able to get a little bit more work done. So,
if I can, just to piggyback on that, I've driven by many times and I've seen you here, and I've texted Jason and said,
she's there again. Yeah.
I do leave, though.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, Christine.
I can see you in the windows.
Yeah, she does. She does. Yeah, no, she's phenomenal. So some of us work remotely, and can do things from home. Christine's goal is to never take anything home.
I want my home to be a fun place.
Yeah. So everybody.
I mean, the budget's not fun.
Their ethic, what works for them. So, but Christine puts in a tremendous amount of hours, and you as a committee are very blessed to have her as your business manager, and I hope she'll be here for many years to come. So coming forward, again, the students were wonderful and did an incredible job with the artwork in here. If it's okay, I'd like to just sort of walk you through the budget first before I get to the real numbers so you understand some of the background. So the first section is the enrollment, and the orange sheet you've already seen. You have the enrollment numbers and the assessment numbers. The next is the enrollment over the last 10 years. The top part of the chart is K through 6. The bottom part is 7 to 12. As you can see, the numbers are decreasing, continuing to decrease over time. Homeschool enrollment is also decreasing. That's a big decrease. We like that decrease, right? So that's the number of students who are homeschooled from our district. So K6 is the top. 7 through 12 is the bottom. So you can sort of see that. The next graph is a new graph that I've never had before. All the data that is submitted to the state has to be verified. And so I've always verified the data. What I hadn't realized until I was verifying this last data was the number of our students who are leaving our district by school choice. It's really becoming, I don't want to say an issue. This is not charter schools. This is not special education schools. This is not private schools. These are school choice surrounding districts. So we have currently from Silver Lake 12 students, grades 7 through 12, who are at surrounding districts like Whitman-Hampton, East Bridgewater, West Bridgewater. A tremendous number of surrounding districts are school choice students. And I had not realized the numbers that we're losing to school choice. So I was sad to see that because really as our numbers are decreasing, we want our students to stay here. So I just want you to be aware of that. I really had not realized that the numbers were as high as they are. And again, all those students that we're losing, we're not getting any of those Chapter 70 funds. So this is a new chart for us. The next chart is the programs that our students are in different vocational programs. And again, just to give you an idea of where they're at. Budget timeline, we're staying on cycle. February, that is already scheduled, that will be our public budget hearing. If you remember, we used to have our public budget hearing in March. One year we got snowed out, and it is very difficult to try to reschedule it. Everything has to get in the paper. We have to have budgets voted into the towns by the end of March to meet their timelines. It's a legal requirement for the town meetings. So we moved it back to February. That way, if we have to cancel and reschedule, you'll have March to do that. Okay, so it gives us a little bit of leeway. I think it's a better thing. Lisa, I think, has already taken the ads out. So we're all set with that one. The PowerPoint you've already seen. Marie did a fantastic job. This is a reference for you. The next one is my new section, and I can't tell you how much I like it. I'm so excited with this new section. So obviously I need to get a life. But this is career and technical education. We've never had a CTE section, so I'm really excited about this. It talks about the different students and the programs that they're in, and I'm in section 4, if I've lost you. We currently have 293 students who are in our CTE program. That is 26% of our entire high school. So it's a higher percentage than many of you may be aware of. So we're really doing a great job servicing those students. The next graph, I'm personally a visual learner. I like graphs. I don't know going forward how that will work, but I like to see it. I think it works. It's a great way of being able to see numbers. In 2004, we had our divorce with Pembroke. That's that high spike. Okay, just so you know, that was what that was about. Each tuitioned-in student in an improved Chapter 74 program brings in over $10,000 extra, $10,353 extra. That was the FY20 amount. So these 32 students, each one of them, we're paid $10,353. You may remember 2-ish years ago, Aaron Obie came before you, and they developed a policy in Pembroke where 9th grade students who choose to go to a vocational have to go to our school for exploratory, excuse me, close. So that has been helpful to continue to keep that line of students coming in. We also have a student who is here now, is a CTE student who recently moved to Whitman-Hanson, wants to stay here, so they're going to be tuitioning them. Whitman-Hanson was sort of floored at how much less expensive we are than South Shore Votech, so we're hopeful that maybe Whitman-Hanson might start sending some kids to us. We're only a little over 10,000. South Shore's 17,000. So, you know, for the schools, it's a good deal. And we have the same programs as some of them. So anyway, this is a new section for you. The next one, again, is the difference we receive for a vocational student versus a regular student for Chapter 70. And I know this is a lot of information, but at your leisure, when you're having trouble sleeping, great reading. You're going to love it. And then here's the how the state determines how much money we get. So this is all stuff you have never seen before. It may take you a little while to process it. This was a wonderful letter from the town of Kingston, thanking us for all the work our students have done in town. And we have done work in other towns also, but that was a really nice letter. Overview of the program. Some of the options we have. We are a public driving school. We also do driver's ed. And then some information about each of the CTE programs that we have, as well as the book that the students receive that goes over the whole process, and then also our night school. So it's a whole section, a lot of information. Elliot Glass was wonderful to help me put this together. He was very excited when I told him I wanted to dedicate a whole section to it, and we were able to come up with some important documents that I think you'll find very interesting. So the next section is our executive summaries. It was an interesting experience to try to write it. As I said, it's been kind of interesting thinking this will be my last one. So again, you'll find that I'm focusing a tremendous amount on our students, on safety. I am bringing forward a warrant article in both Halifax and Plimpton again this year. Before I leave, I will put the warrant article forward. Plimpton has already said they are willing to support the article again. Jill had a meeting with the town manager, and Plimpton will support their portion of it again. I am hopeful that the residents of Halifax will support their portion this year. And I have had a couple of conversations with their police chief, so I'm hoping maybe we'll have a little more success this year. Currently this year we have 8 hours that are paid for at the middle school from the town of Plimpton. So I'm hopeful that it will work. I don't think the way we're doing it is the best way, but at this point, I'm hopeful that at least we'll get back up to the 50%. So one of the things in here that I talked a little bit about again was some of the changes of staff, some of the changes of our students, and the fact that with us losing the number of students that we're losing, and we do already accept school choice students for our vocational program, is it worthwhile to consider us as a school choice? I know some people have very strong feelings about it, and I'm hoping he won't hit me, but considering our financial situation and the fact that we have space, it may be worth considering going forward. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but I think I would be remiss in not mentioning it as a potential source. So I did some research, and there are 331 districts in Massachusetts, and 182 of them accept school choice. So it's more the norm than not at this point. Not a huge amount. If we were to do it, I would not recommend a large amount. In here, I think I mentioned 10 students in 7th, 10 in 8th, and 10 in 9th. It doesn't mean you get that many, by the way. For those of you who are in Plimpton, we had advertised 10 spaces. I think only got maybe 4 or 5. So it doesn't mean you get the number. It just means you would accept applications if you get them. So again, I'm not a strong advocate. I just am trying to find revenue in struggling times. Michaela and Jim also did a wonderful job with their write-ups about what is in here. Oh, by the way, before I move on, so Wizard of Oz is my personal favorite play. So I found the picture, and I had to include it, and then I had to figure out a way to tie it in. So I was really pleased. So the hope is that with continued open communication and support by the communities, we can develop a budget that keeps all students having a rainbow of possibilities. What do you think, Carl? Pretty good?
That was going to be a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for our budget.
I'm just saying, you gotta try. I tried. I mean, that's all I can do. You then have the information from Steve Pello. You have information on our textbooks. Budget version 1. So we sent out budget version 1 to you. And what basically happened is when we had the Silver Lake budget done, it came in at a number that was not reasonable to bring forward. It was not even close to reasonable. So, Michaela, Jim, Jill, myself, Christine, we met to try to find $550,000 on Friday. And we were not able to find $550,000. However, we did find $331,239, which I cut from this budget. Okay? The budget you see in version 1 is $331,239 less than the request. Okay? Because I knew and did not want to bring forward a budget and leave Jill in a situation where she had a budget that there was no way could be supported by the towns or could be accepted. Okay, so we were able to do that without cutting staff. Okay, so I know the towns often say that our budgets are not sustainable, but our buildings, our education is based on staff. 80% of this budget, over 80%, is staff. And our staff is what makes us wonderful. They are absolutely incredible. And we are the largest employer. And I haven't done the math because I don't know how to find it. But I believe Silver Lake has more employees than Halifax, Kingston, and Plimpton combined. I don't know that for a fact, educated guess, but I believe we are. I know our district is bigger than any of the one towns alone. I'm confident of that. So if you think about us being 50%, give or take, of some of the town's budgets, it makes sense. We're the biggest. So for us to be able to sustain a budget and to come forward, we are continuing to cut and cut and cut all the other items to try to maintain staff. And I have to tell you, it is heartbreaking to me to go through this because I see the faces of our staff. When I'm saying cut staff, I know those people. I know them. I know their names. I just hugged 500 of them or so yesterday at a retirement surprise, which, by the way, I still don't know how they pulled off without telling me. There was quite a gathering yesterday for me, which was pretty phenomenal, and I'm extremely proud of this. The Silver Lake Education Association has a $1,000 scholarship in my name, which it's hard for somebody to catch me by surprise and for me to be wordless, but I was. So it's just amazing. But our staff is what makes Silver Lake the place to be. So this cut to version 1 of $331,000 was done without touching staff. That has always been my goal. I'm sort of willing to cut most anything except staff. I mean, that's sort of my last resort. So version 1, we got down, it was still higher than I know was possible, and I didn't think it would have a chance to be done. So we were at 3.84%. My goal was to try to get as close to 3% as possible. Version 1 didn't make it. So I'm going to ask you now to jump to section 8. So what we then did is continue to spend a tremendous amount of quality time together to try to find some more money. Yep.
Can you tell us sort of how you came up with that 300? Like just roughly, like
sure.
What was it? Just so as we think about what else is coming, if we know that XYZ was already cut, that would be helpful.
So a lot of what we cut was equipment. Okay, so things like the bleachers that I think have been in the budget for every year that I can think of. Some of the elliptical machines, some of the athletic equipment.
Books.
Maintenance, some maintenance things. Not the ones that we're dealing with capital plan, but some ongoing things like that. We trimmed supplies.
Yep, things like additional vape detectors, things like that. Service fee for our vape detectors.
Yep. Jim, keep talking. Come on, Jim.
Yep, so
You were there.
I was. So we did, we cut books at the middle school and the high school.
Yeah.
Joy and I worked together because the new social studies curriculum is mandated by the state had come out, and we need to make sure that we're up to date with our text, but we were able to negotiate with the publishing company to break that over 2 years, and the middle school does not have a large sum that needs to be purchased for text for next year, so we're able to make that a little more even. So things like that we're able to manage. We also cut equipment.
Technology items at the high school as well as middle school. Items needed for a lot of our classes to run.
Mm-hmm. So we cut pretty much to the bone. But I really, again, my goal in all of the budgets that I'm presenting is being as close to a number that I'm hoping is, I don't know if palatable is the word I want to use, but acceptable to the committee and the communities. I mean, I have a pretty good sense of what they're looking for. So we continue to look to try to figure out what we're doing. In the beginning of Section 8, if you're with me, we had 5 retirements. The librarian at the middle school nurse, we have a speech language assistant, a middle school custodian. All of those were within, and the number difference between a new hire and a retirement were taken out of the version 1. Okay? The last one, the 5th one, just happened, and we have a high school aide that is resigning, and we are not going to replace her position. Okay, so we don't have to let anybody go. We're just not going to replace the position. By doing that, it's a clean savings. We don't have to unemployment. It's the easiest way to do it. It's the easiest way to do it. The other thing that has just happened, and that was this morning, is we have another high school aide who is retiring, and we're not going to replace her position. So we have 2 aides that we're not replacing that are clean savings, okay? We have 2 positions that have been talked about, and they are not included in the current budget. One is adding an allied health teacher, which we need to do in order to receive Chapter 74 certification. Half of that position can be paid for by a grant. It leaves $30,000, which would need to be added into the budget. That is not in this budget. Okay, so that's outside of it. The positions will be paid for by the additional Chapter 4 income, Chapter 74, excuse me, but not next year. It would be the year after, because it's based on the enrollment from the year before. So we wouldn't have been officially Chapter 74 at that point. I called and checked that. And also the idea of a nurse leader, which would be a shared cost position, okay? I would anticipate if we went with the half-time position, about 20,000 would be Silver Lake. So it's about 50,000 between the two positions. There were 3 positions which were taken out of Silver Lake: the accountant, student information technology specialist, and the network administrator. And they were moved from the Silver Lake budget to the shared cost budget because it more accurately reflects the jobs they're doing, the job responsibilities. We found a mistake, which Christine rarely makes, but this was a great mistake. She accidentally left one of the 3 people in both budgets. Okay, so that was a great find. Okay, so we were able to subtract that number to lower our budget. We have a couple things that are potential cost savings that we don't know final numbers on yet. I talked to Tommy O'Brien, and he said that he would recommend putting in 5% for our health insurance increase at this time, but he does not believe it will be 5%. He believes it will be closer to 3%. But to be fiscally responsible, we're starting at 5%. Hopefully, by the February meeting, we'll have a little better information. If not the February meeting, definitely by the March meeting. Okay? But if that reduces to 3%, it would be about $56,000, $57,000 savings, which is huge. You know, it's a huge thing. Our bus contract, we're going out to bid. We put in a number that we are hoping, praying, all fingers crossed, that would be the maximum.
It was a big number.
It was a really big number. It's a really big number. We are hoping, I am hoping that Christine's wonderful conservative side was way over conservative, and that we're going to have cost savings there. But we don't know, okay? So we have 2 pretty big numbers coming in that really could have an impact on this budget without us having to cut staff. I just want to make sure you're sort of aware of that, okay? So it's sort of a really important piece to know, okay? We also always have the potential of additional retirements, okay? Sometimes people are on the fence, some people are very private, they don't decide until right beforehand, so there is some potential there. It has happened before, and maybe will happen again. If we look at potential staff cuts, we would be looking in the area of about $100,000 if we add the 2 positions I spoke about, and try to get it to that 3% mark, which I think is hopefully a number that is possibly a reasonable number for the towns. Head shake would be great right now. And to you.
Just so you all know, I'm going to let Joy go through this. I'm going to open it up to us. I'm also going to open it up to our friends in the audience as well.
Perfect.
So we can have a nice open conversation and understand where everybody's coming from. That's why.
Yep, no, that's perfect. Thank you. Yep. Sure.
I missed what you said about the number. Did you say 100,000?
I would say about 100,000 at this point.
That's what we would need to cut.
We would need to cut. So if we try to use 3% as a number.
If we added the allied health teacher and the nurse supervisor as a shared cost, trying to hit 3%, we would have to make $100,000 in cuts to staff.
I believe we would need to do between 100 and 120, something in that neck of the woods.
That's being count personnel, that's 2.
It's a little more complicated than that, and I'll go into that in a minute. Yep, workman's comp, et cetera. So again, my goal always has been, is to protect our staff and to do everything we can to not cut staff. I am really proud to say I have not had to do that. But you know, at this point, there's only so many things we can do. So if you turn to the next page, this goes to what the budget is made of. So these are our fixed costs. So personnel, all steps and lanes, is a $576,000 increase. The retirement contribution, this one is still mind-boggling to me. I have to admit, I don't quite understand it. So our staff that are not professional staff, our custodians, our secretaries, our aides, belong to Plymouth County Retirement. The contribution this year is up $111,238. I truly don't understand why. Christine doesn't understand why. We have asked. Supposedly they have two
Actuarial entities that review all of the information,
Right.
and they confirm that this is
I just feel like there's got to be something.
Probably retirements of baby boom age people.
It could be what they're saying is that we're hiring older staff, and so they have less time to pay in, and they have to be fully funded by 2030.
2030, the fund will have, Plymouth County Retirement will be fully funded.
So over the last 5 years, it's been $200,000+, if I remember right. I mean, it's been a really big increases have been astounding.
This is
the biggest.
By far the biggest.
When I saw this number, it reminded me of when we were getting hit with the healthcare insurance costs in double digits for a few years there before Mayflower got themselves under control again. It's a mind-boggling number. Increase, and it really affected the budget.
It totally affected the budget, and these are things I can't control. It is difficult to control. They're fixed. There's nothing we can do about this. So we've got personnel, all steps and lanes. We've got the retirement contribution, which is a ridiculous number. We've got transportation. Again, I am praying, hoping that number comes in lower. Okay, keep everything crossed. We put in an increase potentially of $178,000. Utilities went down. Hey, some good news. Yay. $29,000. Insurance, life insurance. It looks a little crazy when you see that increase of only $15,000. The reason is Christine actually goes through each individual and the plans they've picked. So some people didn't move into families. Some people are individuals. Some people switch to their spouse's insurance, but these are real, actual costs. Some people may have gone for a lower cost insurance. Okay, so this is the actual increase. And then legal. So if you look at the total fixed cost of this budget, can you see what a good job we did cutting? Fixed cost is 98% of the budget. It is astounding. It's astounding. I don't know what else we can do. So it's 98% of the budget is fixed cost. So fixed cost means the things we can't really control, right? We don't, short of, I don't know what. Day-to-day operations, technology, you see the increase, huge decrease in equipment. 80,000. Maintenance is up by 54,000. The actual impact for day-to-day operations is a decrease of 19,145. So all other increases are 33,000. So as you can see, it's hard. It's hard. We worked really, really hard to get this number down. So we're hoping that some of the things we mentioned will decrease the budget. Okay, the transportation, the insurance, both of those savings could be enough to hopefully get us to a number that's reasonable. Ed asked a great question about staff. So anyone that is laid off, not resignations that aren't filled, anyone that is laid off, if they don't find a job, we have to pay 36% of their salary in unemployment, 36%. Okay, so if you lay off a teacher, round numbers, $60,000, 36%, about 24,000-ish is unemployment. So your savings is about 36,000. So to get numbers, you're basically having to lay off like 3 people to equal 2 people's salary. So if we can work to not fill positions as people resign, it is the best options for us. We have had a lot of time together. Michaela and Jim have been incredible and like that, responsive. We do have a plan if we need to make some more cuts. At this point, we are still hopeful that we won't have to get there. Jill has been a part of everything, so she sort of knows the tentative D-Day plan if we have to. But the hope is that we can get there without having to get to the point of staff. That is 100% my goal, and 100%, I'm sure, of Jill's also.
I've got to ask, I'm looking back at the 5 retirements that you're talking about not replacing. 3 of them definitely seem to me to be significant to school, like it will stretch if they're not there.
Yeah, yep.
So the way your building is looking, the health and possible emergency situations, and I know computer technology is a big thing nowadays, but I think we do still need a librarian. I'm not making light of the other 2 because I know technically, I don't like seeing this is the hardship that's going to be on staff.
Oh, there's, right.
Those positions are being replaced.
they're being
The savings is from a newer staff member.
So the only one is, if you look at it a little bit closer, Ed, see how it says not being replaced?
Sorry, I missed it.
Okay, that's okay. No. It's a huge amount of information. It's huge. This is going to take you a while. There was an amazing amount of work that went into this. We're coming in now, if you go to the next section, we did a version 2 budget. We have never done a version 2 budget by the first meeting. We have never done this. I thought Christine might hit me, and she's not violent. I have been known to do that. She pulled it off. So we have a version 2 budget. The reason why was that find of the extra person that was in the budget twice, and these 2 non-replacements made a huge difference. So we went from a 3.84 to a 3.34, okay? That is way closer to the 3% mark that we were hoping for. Again, I don't know that 3% will be a final number. I just want you to know I thought that that would leave everything in a better place to at least begin, okay? So again, if the committee wanted to give direction to get closer to that 3.34, we have some things floating out there that would hopefully bring us back to 3%. We'll know better numbers within the month-ish. Governor's numbers come out January 22nd. January 22nd, that will certainly be important information for us to know. Hopefully Tommy O'Brien will have a little better information on insurance, and we'll get bus contracts back. So hopefully the February meeting will have a little better idea. We do have some ideas on how to get there, but again, it's not what we're hoping for. So the version 2 budget has all the cuts in it, and this is the number we're at currently. Hi. How are you?
Thank you for all your work.
You're welcome.
And thank you to the work of your entire administration and everybody who put time and effort into this. That summary at the end where you mentioned that the portion of the budget that you have direct control over only went up by $33,000 year over year is a very important number to mention. Joy and I and other members of the committee have been meeting with the finance committees of the towns and the select people of the towns since the fall, trying to get a sense of where each of our communities are, their ability to fund our schools. But again, it's our job as a school committee to speak back to the towns of what we believe we need to fund our buildings, our teachers, our students, and the type of education that our communities value. I know there's been talk from different towns about 2%, 3%, 2.5%. We need to use those as guide rails. We need to open ourselves to conversations back and forth. But we also need to be able to speak to this budget and why we believe in aspects of this budget with them. With that being said, I know this can be a very charged moment in a committee, but we have very, very good relations with one another, and I'd like to continue that mode. So I'm going to open it up to discussion, and as long as we can keep things civil and keep things constructive, we can make this a free-flowing, evolving conversation. Would anybody like to begin? I'll take Paula first.
Why is a clarifying question? In this version 2, the allied health staff member and a half
nurse leader,
nurse oversee position is in this It is not.
It is not. What you have before you is, I'm sorry, I should have said that. What you have before you is a level service budget. That means no additional staff is in here. I would never add staff unless you as a committee voted to tell Jill, such a weird thing to say, nothing against Jill, to tell the superintendent, to tell the superintendent to add a position. So this is level service because that's what we were directed to do. Okay? But again, if you went with those two positions, it's about 50,000. You know, it's somewhere at the 100 to 120 range. I think we would need to get back to that 3%-ish mark. And so, yeah.
Good. Okay. And anyone else who wants to participate, just let me know and I'll get you into the conversation more.
I just have some clarifying questions. So I'm looking at the sheet that has the fixed costs and the daily operations, and it's really clear obviously where that increase comes from. But I guess I would love to see, and maybe at some point someone can point me to where I find this and all the numbers, because I'm a numbers girl, but that's a lot of numbers. Obviously with the fixed costs, like you said, there's not really anything we can do about them, but I would love to know sort of, personnel, all steps and lanes, 576, what kind of a percent increase is that for that particular, like for each of those lines, how much in terms of not absolute dollars, but in terms of a percent of what it was last year?
Overall?
Just so that we can see, like, this is 20%, this is 2%.
Overall, it's a 3.3% increase.
Right, but I'm just thinking, like, for each of the fixed costs, the types of fixed costs, like,
You have it, yeah, you
can kind of draw that out of the detail.
Okay.
It's going to take some time.
Right.
This is a lot to digest.
Right.
I appreciate the fact that we got a version 2 with a lower number.
Yeah.
But obviously, those of us who had some time, we looked at the version 1 when it came in. I know I did a forensic audit of it, went through it with
finding more money because I've been trying.
I didn't, but coming in tonight and finding out we had a version 2, I was elated.
Yeah.
I was elated. It's going to take some time to go through and digest it.
Right.
So
I'm sure that I can find it, but I think, like, for me, that would be really helpful, not in terms of that there's anything we can do with this budget, but then as we think about future budgets and sort of thinking about, going outside of our district in terms of, talking to people about budget situations statewide, just understanding, like, for each of these things, like, if we know that these fixed costs are going up by X% per year, then it isn't sustainable. I think we know what that is, but for me, I'd like to see what those percents are. So I can probably dig.
Can I just give her a little helpful hint? For instance, on that sheet, the one for retirement contribution, where we're seeing that it went up 111,000. If you look at the detail that you have in the budget, and you go to page 9 of the detail, right in the middle of the page, you'll see an account, Plymouth County Assessment. If you go all the way across, you'll see what we found to be for 2021's budget versus 20. That's a 15.21% increase.
Great.
And what had caused my question is that the treasurers were told that it was going to be about an 8% increase overall. And when I saw this, I was worried about the $60,000 increase, never mind a $111,000 increase.
Right, and I think that's the number that's important because, you always see these categories where there's a 99% increase or a 60% decrease, but they're small values.
Exactly.
This is a 15% increase in something that's going to cost us over $100,000 next year to pay the retirement benefits to our employees who served us for years. Hopefully we can retire with some dignity because of this, but it's going to cost us over $100,000 for those services.
Okay. And just for me, it's useful to know about it in terms of percents as opposed to, the dollars are what actually matter, because that's what gets us to the 3%, but just trying to wrap my head around all the increases.
Do you want me to help you with the other ones? Do you want? Okay.
I think I can probably find
So utilities and transportation insurance should find the same kind of information. Payroll is just scattered throughout.
Yeah, that's the one that seems hard.
There are probably 30 different payroll accounts.
Yeah, okay.
Carl.
Thank you. Just to help Laura initially here a bit, maybe, on page 3, as an example, you'll see middle school teachers, percent change, 2.65%. you'll see high school teachers, percent change, 3.42%. So those are accounts where you have big dollars, and that's where you see some of the percentages, correct,
Yep.
Christine?
Yes, exactly. Yep. Yeah, you'll see them also in support staff, Laura, but the numbers isn't going to add up as much.
But there isn't one place I can go for the, because I think that was the one I was thinking of.
It's the
personnel.
No.
I wasn't sure if I could figure that out.
Not easily.
Without
Well, you
the
can,
tech
but not as easily.
Add line items.
Yeah. We got a lot of staff.
Any other questions or comments on that? I have no problem just pausing for a few moments and letting you look through things. I have some flavor I can add to this. Again, we don't know the governor's budget yet. We also know that Silver Lake largely is left out of the new funds that are going to be allocated to Chapter 70. The rewriting of the foundation budget is going to include more monies for ELL, low income, special needs. We might capture some money back in circuit breaker and some special ed transportation. But that's about it. I'm hearing right now from the State House that we're probably looking at a $30 per pupil minimum increment. So that might be the only monies we see is about $30 per student for us next year from the state Act, which means the burden is going to fall on the 3 towns to support our schools. The money is drying up at the state level. We mentioned the Perkins Act. I'm going to Washington to speak to the congressional delegation on February 4th. And one of the things I'm going to be speaking to them about, thank you, is the reauthorization of the Perkins Act, which Joy just mentioned is how we funded our allied health program. There were changes made to the language by President Trump that could reallocate some of those funds to private job trainings and not go directly to public schools for vocational. We're also looking, Jill has mentioned at previous meetings, from the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, Title I, Title II, Title III funds have diminished greatly for us. We've lost close to $300,000 year to year from those areas. So at the state level and at the federal level, we're seeing diminished support, which really means we need to be very close partners with our towns because they're the ones footing this bill. These increases are going to directly lay on their shoulders. I need you guys to come with me today on the Hill. We are going to reconvene there's a regional school caucus up at the State House. So state reps and state senators who come from districts that have regional schools, there is a caucus. We've called upon them to be available to us when we come up on May 5th for Day on the Hill so we can speak to them. The greatest threat to us on that end is our regional transportation funds, which are supposed to be funded at 100%. We're lucky if we get about 70%, 80% from the state in reimbursement. They want us to have, quote, skin in the game. So we go out for bids and we aggressively protect our dollars. One bus company applies for the bid.
Right.
And they go up by 8 or 9%, then the state thinks we've done something wrong. They are going to reallocate how those transportation funds are distributed. And 3 areas where they're looking at moving regional transportation funds is open it up to all communities, even municipalities that don't have regional schools. They're going to be looking at the means test. They're going to be looking at how many miles towns are running their buses, and towns that run their buses at extraordinary lengths of miles might be eligible for those funds, even if they're not regional schools. We're in trouble, guys. We're really in trouble at the state level. The support for our schools on the South Shore have diminished greatly. I feel like we're pensioners who have a decent pension and we're trying to get into some housing and we don't quite have enough money to pay for ourselves, but we also make too much that the state's not going to give us a little bit of help. It's scary. It's scary. So we need to be very judicious here. Fred, thank you for having us to the Tri-Town Finance Committee review. As always, Charlie was very eloquent with expressing how the towns are feeling with the pinch, not having the state support like we used to have in the past. I know these numbers right now might be a little bit north of where you were hoping to see them, but we are going to work diligently to try and come in with a budget that meets the needs of our students and the 3 towns as well. Anybody else? Eric?
My only comment is that there's a lot of unknowns, obviously. So from my perspective, I don't have a lot to say about the budget until we get a little bit more information to kind of fill in the holes and see where we really are and where we need to be. But this is awesome. You know, the way you put this together is great. Thank you.
I understand things don't look good. I understand, despite my misstep there, I apologize. But education is not going to get cheaper. You start going the other way, you're going to start getting home. It's going to be almost impossible. Well, it's not going to be impossible, but it's going to hurt even more when you have to start digging back out. Don't start thinking, put it on the towns. Make them, you know, let them know. The luxuries are probably the things that have to go. And that's things like sports first. That's, you know, that's where money would go. Education is the more important.
Paul?
You know, it's difficult in a budget season when we're looking at cuts to talk about additions. But my feeling on this right now, and if the administration is looking for some direction, is as numbers continue to be refined, I would be supportive of adding the allied health position and a half position on the nurse leader. And I realize that we're talking about cuts, sensitive to that. But I don't, certainly the allied health, we just added that element to the CTE program. We have to, I think, continue to support that. So if administration is looking for some thoughts from at least one member, I would be looking to see those 2 positions added into the next version of the budget.
I absolutely support what you just said, Paula. That was a very difficult thought going through my mind when I saw the first version of the budget was, how do I reconcile the fact that I want to bring forth another allied health teacher and how important it is for us to have a nurse leader with a 3.84 budget. Even with the budget where it is now, down 0.5%, which is extraordinary. I also agree that we've worked very hard to get to this point with the Allied Health Program. Elliott continues to receive accolades for that, state endorsements moving forward to get it as a fully accredited Chapter 74 program. We know it's the most popular CTE program currently at our school. As we talk about bringing in tuition students that actually have a bang for their buck, CTE students bring that Chapter 74 funding far above what we would get from a school choice student who would only bring us $5,000, right? So I also agree with Paula that I would like to see, as we continue to build out the budget, even unfortunately, if it means we have to make cuts in other areas, that we include the allied health teacher and the part-time nurse leader. Anybody else?
Yes. I also agree with Paula and yourself. On the CTE, when we talk about students coming in for opportunities, are we doing anything to get them to come here? Is there any, just to kind of promote what we're doing?
Right.
Because I know students that are going to Hanover, Villanova, to that one there, and some of it is because they're going in that direction, but they have a sports program. So, I mean, we have a great athletic program here. There might be an opportunity to be able to bring some of those folks from the strong towns.
We've actually had a film crew in the last 2 days, so they are working on a new updated sort of promotional video, if you will. We can't recruit, but something to at least share with our, partnering schools to highlight our programs in the hopes that students will be interested in applying.
We've been building that a bit. Elliot's quite involved right now in getting the Chapter 74 approval. That's almost a full-time job with the Department of Public, because we just got the DPH approval, which is the first step. We had to have that done first. And so now he's working on the Chapter 74. It's a very long, involved process. It's going to take him all year. And that will bring in the additional funds, which will be funding the teachers. Both teachers, because it's the largest one. So both of those teachers would be funded by the additional Chapter 70 that we're getting in. In terms of extra students, we have, as Michaela said, we have the new video that's currently being done. We have the brochures and some of the things that are in your packet, which most of you probably have not seen. So it's an ongoing. I mentioned Whitman Hansen. We have John Tuffy, who I love dearly. I made the mistake of recruiting him to be the part-time business manager at Whitman Hansen. He was bored. So he's over at Whitman Hansen. So he's been sort of laying some groundwork to see if Whitman Hansen is interested in sending some students here. That's why I was mentioning it, because we do have that current student that's here. We are, again, about 7,000 less than South Shore Voc Tech for the same program.
So with the videos and stuff like that, are we using social media as well can we do that? Can we use social media to kind of like, not so much recruit, but just show what we're doing?
We do. We can certainly do more. So CTE has their own social media accounts, in addition to like our school Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram pages. So we do circulate information and highlight sort of the projects that they're doing. Yeah. So like I would retweet something for CTE, or they would tag me. Yeah.
Carl?
Speaking only as a resident and for myself as one member of the Finance Committee, I absolutely would support adding the allied health teacher to the budget.
Thank you.
And I will say, I support Carl. I agree that rate should be added back into the budget. I think it's a no-brainer because it brings in additional revenue down the road. So that's an easy sell as far as I'm concerned. You can sit there and say, yeah, we have to pay a little bit more now, but look at all the additional revenue you're going to get down the line. So to me, that's like a no-brainer.
Thank you. Thanks, Fred.
Can we take a straw poll? Please vote on this. Okay. A straw poll is not official. How many of us do support adding the allied health teacher into the budget for the next version? Okay. How many of us support adding a half-time nurse leader into the next version of the budget? Okay, so the direction from the committee is to look at those two items as you move forward with the version 3.
Excellent.
Any further guidance or comments? Mike?
No,
and Chris?
We have one on that topic. Something else to look at.
Chris, is it on that topic?
It's on top of adding back to the security.
Okay, hold on that for a sec. Did you need to say something?
I just, if I may, could I clarify something? So just so you know, a nurse leader will be in the shared cost budget.
Right.
So that position would need to be voted by the joint committee. I don't believe at this point that a joint committee has been scheduled. There will need to be one scheduled reasonably soon to vote the contract of the new assistant superintendent. So at that time, if you like, we could add that on the agenda and try to get an official vote so that we would have all the pieces. Again, it's that whole puzzle thing. So we need the elementaries to play in. I just wanted to clarify if you didn't realize. It will not be in the Silver Lake budget in total. If we did a half-time position, figure 35, 40,000-ish, half of the that position would be Silver Lake, because Silver Lake's half of the whole thing. Okay?
All right. Chris?
Security? Yeah, the resource officer. I think we somehow got to make firm that we need additional hours. And really put it in our budget so we can get reimbursed or something, because we've had 2 instances, I think, in Massachusetts in the last month where security with younger kids. middle school staffing, I think, 2 weeks ago, a week ago. Yeah, so I think we really can't push that off and wait for a mechanism to work, but we gotta put it in and then build it through, whatever we need to do to make it work, be firm.
If I may, it's not that easy.
Yeah.
I don't mean it's not that easy to put it, it's very easy to throw it in. I don't mean that.
Yeah.
What is difficult is Kingston is fully funding a full-time resource officer. We can't add, well, we could, we can do anything, you can do anything you want. I'm sorry, I don't get to do it, I'll just do what you tell me, and then Jill will. So, if you were to add the .5 resource officer, we would need to add a 1.5 resource officer, because it would be unfair to give an additional assessment to Kingston by doing that. So we would have to put in the full-time resource officer as well as the .5. The budget can't accommodate it. It won't be supported by the towns. It will mean staff cuts, I guarantee you. And I mean, I've been here 14 years. I've been on town meeting floor. I can tell you who in the town's going to ask the questions. I can tell you who in the town's going to do. I mean, I've lived this, and Jill will love doing it. That's not the way I'm sorry, was I sarcastic?
I didn't think so. I think it was sincere.
It was extremely sincere. So we don't want to go down that route at this time. I'm not saying the year after. We haven't laid the groundwork, Chris. It's not done. I don't like having it on town meeting floor, but I can tell you if that vote had been taken earlier in Halifax, it would have passed. It didn't happen until 11 at night, Ed? And it was like 11 at night. It was like the last one. I thought I was going to fall off my chair. So all it was exhausting.
The biggest two, actually, 44, round robin, the biggest two are the last two.
Yeah.
It just was weird.
And so all the parents had left.
Yeah.
All the parents had left. I mean, they left earlier. They have kids. They needed to get home to their sitters. So Halifax knows. I had an extremely sincere heart-to-heart with the Halifax police chief. I think he's in support now. So I really think we have the potential to get there.
Right.
There's a lot of parents in Halifax that are really pretty unhappy that they're not playing a role in this. So I'm hoping that there'll be more support. They'll stay through. I don't think it's the right mechanism, but we don't have the time.
We really need to go back through and like the line item in our police budget as
Exactly.
a payback to Kingston. That's the way it needs to be funded.
I agree. I completely agree. And, if you're willing to support or help us with that, Fred, going forward, I completely agree. I think it should be in the police budgets. That's how it's done in Kingston.
Yep.
And the town, Plimpton, funds it. It goes through us, but it goes directly back to Plimpton. We found a mechanism to make it work. If Halifax was willing to do that and they understand they're not, what it's funding, I think it really makes sense. It's how Old Rochester does it, which is the exact same setup we have. Yeah.
Let's be on record in terms of how important.
Yeah,
it is
I
for us to
appreciate
not
it.
get lost
Yeah.
as a.
Yeah.
It's just mechanically stuck in mechanics.
Right.
I mean, really, it's not fair to Kingston because they're paying for the full resource officer as it is now. That should be a shared cost between Plimpton and town.
Right. Agreed. Thank you, Fred. I really appreciate that.
Any other questions or comments about the budget? Go ahead.
One of the lines, or two of the lines is so on the substitute high school line.
Where is that, Mike?
Page 3.
Page 3 of the detail.
So we have the middle school line, the middle school substitute line, the high school substitute line. Does this increase what we're talking about on the rate?
What I've done is I've used FY19 actual number of substitute days and multiplied it times the new rate, the $95. That was yep, that's why there's such an increase.
I know we have the
Yep.
Any other questions about the budget or direction for our administration moving forward?
I have a technical question.
Chris?
I just came in, my friend did. In terms of staff reductions, if we have to go down that route, you mentioned that we have to pay unemployment of 36%. Is that normal that we pay that?
It's
Or
up to,
teachers get-
it's up to 36%. So if
They
somebody,
would be employed, I would think.
Exactly.
and if they are, that's fine. It's for the time that they're not employed, after their contract is over, the time they're not employed, they're eligible to collect unemployment. And the maximum that they would be able to collect is 36%.
But do we have an experience? We probably don't, we have staff.
It depends on the position. You know, if, they're very generous when they apply for
Yeah.
unemployment. They almost never get turned down, even in situations where it seems like it would have been a good idea. But they, it depends on the position. So if the person happened to be, and I'm just going to pick a subject, okay? It's not real, okay? Just arbitrarily picking. If the person was an English teacher, they're going to have a harder time finding a job than if they're a chemistry teacher. Okay, it depends on the number of people that have the certifications. So, you know, a little bit depends on how things play out.
Right. And then like a second question, if I could, what's the process then of selection? If we needed to cut-
Of the positions?
if 5 staff in total to make the numbers work or something, what's the process so we all have sort of that idea in our head before we go down that road? If that's possible, that's that question.
Okay. So in the past, and we haven't had to do this for quite a few years, it hasn't been during my time as superintendent, thank God for small favors, of cutting staff. If you direct administration to give you options, that's, I personally believe, the best way of doing it, because Jim and Michaela know their buildings. They know what's going to work in the schedule. We would always, always, always pick something that has the least impact on students, okay? So we have some subjects that maybe have small class sizes. That would be a reason why we would do that. We have ways of working with the schedule so that we want to make sure that, again, it's not throwing more students into studies or making class size an unreasonable number. If you have a class size of 16, 17, and by cutting a staff member, you go to 21, 22, 23, that's within reason. It's within reason. So that's how we would do it. We would never cut a subject area that already has high class sizes. Okay? And again, I'm keeping everything crossed for Jill and you going forward that we won't have to go down this road. We are way closer than I thought possible, I have to tell you. I mean, we have spent just so much time trying to make this work. So, you know, it's that 100 to 120, maybe 130,000. There's just a lot of moving pieces. But I think that would get us to that 3% mark, if that's a number that you would like to direct, you know, or keep in your mind as a suitable.
Yeah, my question comes based on almost the first slide of the book of how we're declining enrollment.
Yep.
It's almost 10% down over the last 5 or 6 years.
Yep.
And I don't see a recovery. So I know our class sizes have been shrinking a little bit. I'm not sure if it's proper to boost them up by 1 or 2 by a few staff reductions, or if it's even hard to do because scheduling and everything else we got to look at. But I think the conversation, we're pretty darn close to it this year, next year, year after year, to kind of say most of the elections increasingly to understand the process. And
Sure,
what might have
absolutely.
to happen.
Yep, no, I don't disagree. As I said, we have spent lots of time understanding schedules, understanding impact. Luckily, both Jim and Michaela have a great sense of humor, and so we're working very diligently, and hopefully we can get to a reasonable number without having to touch our staff. Again, our staff is what makes us Silver Lake. So, but if it comes to it, and we'll have a better idea hopefully next month. We do have some ideas, and I think we can get to that number. I didn't feel we could get to the number version 1. I have to be honest with you. I was just heartbroken. I mean, I truly was. I was, I've been just haven't been sleeping. These bags are well earned because I see faces. When you say we have to cut, and I look at the seniority list and I look at the thing. I know these people. I know their life situations. I mean, they're real people to me. It's heartbreaking to think that, we might have to lose some of that. And I know what an incredible job they do with our students. So, we've really worked very hard to get to this version 2. Again, to my knowledge, a version 2 has never been given the first budget meeting. So that 3.34 is such a nicer number than the 3.84. So, we worked really hard to get there. I know it's not where the towns hoped for, but it was not due to lack of effort. We cut, like I said, we started about 550,000 over. Overall, we've cut about 440, 450. So, it's pretty substantial.
I'd like to see us continue to really look at the big items, the medical insurance. I can even talk to Tom O'Brien about understanding the pension.
That would be great. He has to return my second
retirement item, the bus contract. Is there any way that we're going to know anything about the bus contract before March 15th?
Yes, definitely. We'll definitely have real numbers on the bus contract.
Okay. And just one last question. I know you're trying to get off the budget here. Christine, the medical insurance for this year, is it running close to what we budgeted from last year, for this year?
We're actually expecting a surplus in that line right now. What happens is every year when I budget that line, I start at ground zero and I budget for all the current people enrolled in our plans. And then I have to, what is our experience with how many people make a switch during the year? So, and then what's the increase that's built in? So it's
my
estimates all
point
along.
being, whenever I've worked on, the Kingston budgets and previous budgets, medical insurance always being a big one, and an unknown number year after year after year, I've always been very conservative on it. I suspect you're a big conservative. So again, I too don't like talking about staff reductions. So I think it's important that, and this is just my advice, that we're doing everything we can on these big other numbers that, yes, it's good. I'm a financial guy. I want to be conservative, but I don't want to be so conservative that in the end I end up doing one staff reduction when maybe I didn't have to.
Thank you.
Just a thought.
Yeah, oh no, we're looking.
Go ahead, Mike. Yeah. On page 8, so the grounds fertilizer, is that something that we do ourselves, or is that contract?
It's a combination of work that's done by our staff and also by an outside entity that comes in, because there are some things that are kind of beyond our expertise, especially working with the irrigation systems.
So is that do we do that as a one-year contract, or do we try to extend it out to try to maybe have a cost?
We actually use the state bid list for that.
Okay.
And there has been a lot of consistency with that. It doesn't flip-flop every year. The companies that are involved. So we have companies that are familiar with our facilities that it's worked out really well for us.
So the actual. So I was just curious what happened, what's going on there. We had the national 148,000
Then it was cut.
and then we had 26,000. So was there something?
We had believe we made a big cut to that the previous year, and
Products or staff?
products.
There aren't any staff members there. It's
No. If you look over the 5 years, Mike, you can sort of see how the number has changed over time. So we're kind of trying to get back to some sort of a middle ground.
Any further questions or comments about the budget? All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate your work, and I know you're going to put in a few more hours on this.
Two more hours.
Two more hours. So let's move on to the approval of minutes from our December 5th, 2019 regular meeting. I would like to make an amendment to the old business. The second sentence said, in regards to me, he spoke to Sheila Vaughn and discovered that some students don't go on to college but graduate with an associate's degree. Can we just clarify that? When I was looking into dual enrollment, my primary purpose was to try and save our families some money so the students could be going into college with some of their credits already under the belt. I was surprised to find out that some students not considering college had the opportunity to pursue an associate's degree while still enrolled in high school. So if we could just change the phrasing to some non-college track students are able to achieve their associate's degree in dual enrollment, while college track students are able to gather some credits to offset costs at their 2 or 4 year institution. Please. I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes with that amendment. Do I have a second? Any further amendments, comments, or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any abstentions? Abstention for Paul and Ed. All right, thank you very much. I'll accept a motion to accept and hold the executive session minutes from December 5th, 2019. So moved. Do I have a second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Any abstentions? Paul and Ed will also abstain from the executive session vote. All right, on to our principals. Ms. Gill, it's your house. Thank you for waiting, and thank you for that awesome art presentation.
Oh, you're very welcome. No, thank you. Hi, everybody. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. So at last month's meeting, we shared with you all of our course change proposals. It included some new electives, changes to some of our course names, updating some of our prerequisites, or some of our course descriptions. So our coordinators and department chairs put together a little highlight reel for you, and we shared copies of all of those with you. I do have 2 minor updates. We are going to withdraw the request to add laughter and expression. We're going to take another look and maybe revamp the course a little bit to be more inclusive of other author perspectives, not just one male author voice. And then recently, earlier this week, the College Board released a new course description for AP Biology that recommends students should successfully complete biology and chemistry before taking the course. So we'd like to update that language in our program of studies as well. But keeping in mind, it is open enrollment, so it's a recommendation, it's a suggestion. It would certainly not hinder any student from taking that course. So with all of that in mind and having time hopefully to read all of those changes, I have the hard copies here available to sign if the committee votes to approve all of those changes.
I'll make a motion to approve the changes.
Motion from Eric. Second from Laura. Any further discussion from the committee? All those in favor of making the changes? All right, it's unanimous from the committee. Thank you very much for your work on that.
Thank you, everyone.
That presentation was still, in all of my time on both committees, the most interesting and innovative way to share information.
I'm glad. Great.
It was great.
We'll work on some more for you. Now that everybody's
sure
broken
that was a
through
lot of work.
their screen, frightened. So I wanted to share some information about a Vap Deviation Program that we're working on here at the high school and just give you a little bit of an update on our battle against vaping. We, over the summer, purchased and installed vape detection devices, and unfortunately they have not been working properly. They were giving false alarms. We were getting vape reading for sound readings for vapes. We were getting alerts when the building was completely shut down on like holidays and Sundays. So we ended up deactivating everything. The middle school had a couple of issues too, and so our assistant principals did a great job of reaching out to the company. They have sent new devices at no cost to us. We installed those earlier this week here at the high school, and we plan to reactivate the system next week in hopes that they will come back online and work the way that they are intended to work. With that in mind, we also still continue to monitor our bathrooms, obviously with staff on their duty periods. You know, we sign students in and out. We have an e-hall pass system that we utilize, so we are still, fighting the good fight. But we put together a task committee earlier in the year, and that's made up of teachers, nurses, counselors, our school resource officer, and administrators to study our discipline data related to vaping. And we really found that traditional discipline, so a suspension, for example, isn't impacting students. We're not really seeing a change in their behavior. We actually think that we're actually perpetuating the problem because we'll send them out on a suspension and then they're home vaping. So we've started to develop a deviation program to include education, counseling, and support for students to try to help their addictions in lieu of a traditional suspension. So we've tried a couple of different things this school year. in terms of trying different pilots, whether it's an education piece. We've had some students who have done the Upper Academy at North River, which is like a 5-day program that they can go to instead of an out-of-school suspension, where they get counseling and therapy, and they learn about what's causing the addiction versus just being told not to do it again. We've done some programs here in-house that we've worked on, all with the end goal of trying to create our own in-house program that would be about a 4-week long process for a student to go through in order to try to help curb their addiction. We recently partnered with the Allied Health Club and members of our SAD group, Students Against Destructive Decisions, to kind of unite both students and staff together to try to combat this issue that we have and the concerns that we have. And our hope is that, so Allied Health students have created a wonderful presentation. Their goal is actually to work with high school students, middle school students, and elementary school students, maybe our 6th graders, to teach them about the dangers of vaping and nicotine use. And our SAD students are working on school PSAs and sort of an ad program to combat and sort of remind students that the cool thing is not to vape, not the other way around. So we've got a pretty powerful group of students and staff working together on this. We met earlier this week to sort of talk through our action plan and devise the next steps for what that will look like. I've actually invited them to our February school committee meeting to share with them what they've been working on and what they hope to accomplish. The students are hoping to plan some events in March to do sort of a pledge or a campaign where students pledge not to vape. There's talk of doing like a student sit-in, just to meet. So I would equate it to our SOS program that we do at both the middle school and the high school, where we, as our freshmen are trained for the signs of suicide. We teach them what are the warning signs of mental health and depression and suicide awareness, and we empower our students to speak to an adult, whether they or a classmate or a teammate, someone is impacted. So our goal is to create a program that allows and empowers our students to do the same if they're addicted to vaping and to nicotine. So we have one student in particular who recently worked with her family and her pediatrician to curb her addiction to vape devices, and her story is pretty powerful, and she's willing to share it with our student body. So next week they'll be here to talk a little bit about that, but I wanted to give you an update leading up to that, so you had a little bit of context about where that presentation would be coming from, and also certainly if you have some ideas or feedback that we could then take back to our group. Jake is a part of that, so that we can work to get that developed hopefully by the end of this school year. It would also include a language change in our student handbook, obviously, so school council is a part of it as well, because it would be a pretty big philosophical shift from our traditional response to a chemical health violation.
So we all just had to sit through a discussion about a budget that's going to be difficult moving forward. And you just said the words pediatrician and vaping in the same sentence. Mm-hmm. But the way you've been approaching it is so hopeful. And to understand that our goal is education, not punishment per se. And to realize that addiction is something that an entire community needs to wrap their arms around someone when they're going through it. For you to talk about something that's so difficult with so much hope, it just makes me feel good to know that you are the leader of this building that all our kids walk into every day.
Well, I've got to give a lot of credit to our students, because it's a pretty powerful group, and like I said, the student stories and testaments I think will be pretty powerful for their classmates and their peers to hear. So
I just want to give you some feedback and just my perspective. Mm-hmm. Kingston has gone through the whole marijuana thing, and so I was talking to a lot of people and to a lot of meetings related to that. But as part of that, there's also the discussion about vaping. And I can't tell you the number of parents and grandparents who have said to me, vaping is so much better than what we did when we were in high school, and there's no addiction related to it. And I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? And they're buying the products for them.
Yeah.
So parents didn't buy cigarettes or drugs for kids when we were in school. They're doing it now. And it's a lack of education. So, and I applaud what you're doing with the students, but there are a lot of parents in this district and around the country that are that don't understand it. It's new.
It is.
So-
It's very new, and I think it's constantly changing and evolving too. I mean, we
Right.
brought in a speaker last year, and I remember asking him, like, can I steal your PowerPoint? Can I share this with the parents who weren't able to make it? And she actually said, she's like, no, but not for the reasons that you would think, not because of copyright or, ownership. She said, because the information, the facts change so quickly.
Yeah.
She goes, by the time I get home tonight, something will have changed, a statistic will have changed, the ingredients will have changed, that it's so quickly changing that they can't even keep up with it. So it's already out of date by the next day. And that's where I think that education piece is so important, and maybe even adding a component, something to think about for our parents too, right? And our guardians to, we've done a couple of nights with our parent conferences and back to school night where we have a table with all the devices out and just see what they look like, pick them up, touch them, smell them, so you know what to look for with your children. That education piece is so huge for all parties.
I kind of dovetail from what Eric was just saying. Currently, we're suspending or taking some sort of disciplinary action. What kind of sense do you get from the parents when you contact a parent and say your child is going to be suspended for X number of days for vaping? Are the parents on board with trying to change the behavior, or are they, because I have some similar feelings where I'm not sure the parents understand. So if a student is going to self-report or try and get help, they're not going to ask for help, I don't think, if a parent doesn't understand and trying to educate them. So I'm just curious, do you get the sense that parents say, I'm going to work with them to stop, or are they kind of brushing it off as, okay, she's suspended for 3 days and I'll send her back in on Tuesday?
I would say we're starting to see a shift since we've been sort of offering, in lieu of a suspension, here's what we'd like to try with your child, right? You're kind of a beta test, we're very upfront and honest with it, here's what our goal is, here's what we'd like to do, and the parents have been very open to that. The students, surprisingly enough, have been very open to it. And there, some things, the upper academy, there's a cost associated with that. And we were sort of willing to try to get creative on how to fund it, and the parent was like, nope, my child can pay for it. Like they're the ones who are doing this. But our goal is to have something in-house that there isn't a cost for. And the program, it's actually mirrored from Belmont High School. They shared a lot of information with us. I've been in touch with their admin team over the summer at a conference that we went to. They were very helpful and shared so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. They gave us a lot of resources and information, and we're sort of trying to tweak it to make it our own here for this district, for what works for our community. But the idea is that by making it a 4 to 5 week long program, not every day, but instead of a 5-day out-of-school suspension, for 4 or 5 weeks, every week a student has an assignment. There's a person that they have to check in with that is a part of this, whether it's a nurse 1 week, a counselor, the school resource officer, administrator, a teacher or coach, someone who is a mentor to them in the building, someone that's not just they're issuing out discipline, but someone that they can maybe connect to and have a different type of relationship with, that all those people are reinforcing that. There's lessons for them to complete, there's tutorials, there's videos, there's assignments that they have to do. And the idea is to get to the root of, well, why are you doing this? Is it because your friends are doing it? Is it because you're addicted? Is it because, is it a defense mechanism for something else? And really trying to get at the crux of why they're choosing to do it. And it is so addictive, so much more so than cigarettes. I mean, 1 pod is the equivalent to 1 pack of cigarettes, and on average, kids will go through 2 of those quickly. So they're putting this in their body, they're becoming addicted, and then it's a distraction in class because they need that next fix. So they're looking to leave class, they're not focused on, what's in front of them. It can lead to other issues, with time on learning and being in the classroom. So it just starts this vicious cycle. And our goal, again, is to help them curb that addiction and get them back in class where they need to be.
And you do a wonderful job of framing this entire effort. So
Thank you.
I give you a lot of credit.
Well, it's not easy, and it will not change overnight. I'm also not, looking through rose-colored glasses here, but I think we have to do something, and I think we need to do something different. And I think we have the right combination of students with our Allied Health Club, with our SAD students, and just the right team ready to go to take this on. Our teachers, I mean, they're so supportive, and I think they, with all that we do with SEL, social emotional learning, and trying to support our students, not just academically, but socially, emotionally, we're at we're at the prime time to really try to tackle this. And I think I have a feeling other schools will be calling us soon and you know, saying, hey, what are you doing? Because we're starting to see that some of these piloted programs that we've done have made a difference for some kids.
My gears are turning on me, and I have a couple ideas.
Great. So come to our meetings.
Yeah, I'm going to call you.
Great.
I have some school systems that could actually, you know, benefit from that type of pilot, so
Yeah.
it's very interesting
So
hearing it.
we're very hopeful, but
I'm running into more and more of those situations with school districts,
Yeah.
and they just use the discipline course, which doesn't correct the problem.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, the students mentioned the other day the idea of a student support group. So students who, all right, on Tuesday after school, we're going to meet and we're going to be in a safe place and we're going to talk about what we're doing here to try not to, rather than being in our cars and vaping or going home and vaping, you know, sort of to support one another. Sometimes coming from their peers, it's way more powerful than me or Mr. Blatt or Mrs. Pratt telling them not to do it, so.
And Jake was very polite tonight and told me about a lot of this information off air and didn't want to step on anybody's toes and bring it up himself. Polite young man.
Yes.
Do you want to add anything to the conversation now that we've brought it to the table?
Yeah, actually. So what we want to do is with the Allied Health, we have our club that we have our vaping committee. Is we want to do a high school presentation to high school students, we want to do a middle school presentation to middle school students, and then we want to do an elementary school to the elementary kids because, you know, it does give it a little bit of exposure to it, but, you know, coming from high school kids, it's not going to be as, you know, it would
It's
be
not the
different. It would
adults.
be, and obviously,
It's the cool kids.
It's the cool kids.
Yeah.
Not that you guys are cool, but.
We're not as cool.
Exactly. So, you know,
Exactly. You stepped right in there, Jake.
So we want to try and, you know, fix what we have now, but also prevent it before we can, you know, well,
Some mitigation.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Like I said, you know, I have a background in treatment and prevention, and when you started speaking, I was really in a down place because of the budget discussion and just your tenor and your approach and what your staff is doing and how you're thinking about it with students. And it takes a community. It takes all of us to really help those of us who are struggling. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and I appreciate everybody's support. We're excited, and a lot of work to do, but we'll roll up our sleeves and we'll do it. So I just do have a few school updates. With thanks to the safety grant that we received, we've ordered our teller-style window that will be installed into our main entrance, and our carpentry students are going to build a kiosk that comes off of that area so that we have a more secured front entry and visitation system, so that sort of like front vestibule will have interlocking doors so we can keep someone in there. They'll have to pass their ID through to sign in before they are able to enter the building, whereas our system now, everybody, even though they're giving us their IDs, they're in the building already. So we're excited to add that feature, very similar to what the middle school has. We're very excited to add that feature. Mid-year exams start next week. We have 7 exams scheduled over the course of 4 days, 3 of which are early release days. And it is officially 2020, which means graduation committee meetings start at the end of this month. Graduation will take place on May 30th, 2020. All members of school committee are invited to attend. You have a special spot on stage. You may help hand out diplomas to your children. So if you'd like to join us, please save that date. And then lastly, but she just walked away.
Do you want to defer
Joy?
your time to Jim and we'll come back to you?
Yes, please.
Okay. Jim.
Timing, right? So,
take it all back.
I know, thank you. First, you know, we'll start like Michaela had the program of studies. We had submitted our program of study changes for next year. Welcome if there's any questions. If there weren't any, I asked for a vote to approve.
Any questions about the changes that Jim asked for in the program of studies for the middle school? So I'll entertain a motion to accept his changes. So moved. Do I have a second? Second from Eric. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous.
Great, thank you. Moving right along, parent-teacher conferences. Our second parent-teacher conferences are coming up in February, so it's February 5th and February 6th. So 5th and 6th, we do an afternoon session right after school, and then on Thursday night on the 6th, we also have an evening session. And that is our parent-teacher conferences, our second session. We also had a spurt happen this week, so in order to help prevent students from starting to use substances, we do an early intervention screening system with our counseling staff and our nursing staff. It's screening for alcohol, marijuana, and other drugs. It's basically a 5-minute brief interview, and then students that in through that screening process that have some things that they want further clarification or concerns, they meet with a further dialogue with our guidance staff or our school nurse. So this is something we do to help early prevention in our school. We also have our anti-vaping. We have an anti-vaping presentation that's coming to the school, and that's happening on January 15th. It's called Vaping Me Crazy, and it's Michael DeLeon, who does a very nice job in the schools, and our guidance counselor, Renee Donahue, had done a lot of research to bring this into our school. We do like to, as Michaela had talked about, and she did a very nice job, we want to educate, we want to be proactive, and this gentleman's coming in and speaking to our 7th and 8th grade students about the risks of vaping and other behaviors that vaping puts our children at risk for. And he's going to not only educate our students, but then he meets with our staff after school and educates our staff. And then he also does an evening presentation to our community. So he really does a wonderful job and really reaches all facets of what we want to do to educate. So again, that's happening on January 15th. And the evening session is at 6, and we'll be sending that out again for the communities, and we'll certainly send it along for you guys as well.
So the evening session, Jim, is that primarily going to be for the parents of the middle school, or is that going to be for parents?
We open up our evening sessions for everybody. So
because we just had a couple of members mention how we feel like the parents might not necessarily have enough information to combat this new crisis we're dealing with. So that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we could really push it out.
So when we do the evening, which is, obviously, Jason, your concern is absolutely accurate. We want to make sure that we offer that up to all students, parents of all grades, and we do that with Amanda Fowle when the assistant DA comes in. We open that up to everybody, and this is something we would do the same. And I know Michaela does the same thing at the high school when she has informational meetings. She opens up to our students as well, so that we can all go and participate.
And the nice thing with Parent Square is that, Jim can send the email blast out to our parents as well, so they all get the notification for it.
Correct.
I'm just wondering.
So, sorry.
No, go ahead, Paul.
What was the date again?
So it's January 15th at 6 p.m.
Next week?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if this is something that would warrant one of our calls. If we really want to raise the flag, is this something that warrants one of the calls that goes out to
The reverse
parents? I know that's burdensome. I know Joy hesitates to do it. We've done it in the past for some very unique situations. I don't know if this is the right one for it, but maybe moving forward, we want to consider if we really want to get the word out.
I mean, Jim and Dan both have very nice voices.
Hello.
You made me record the message.
Well, it's funny.
Joy likes to do the snow day. The minute they hear your voice, they know it's a snow day.
It's hysterical.
The students love her voice.
Yeah, it's really funny. Yeah, it's interesting.
I can certainly make that happen.
It's something to consider. Like I said, I don't know if this is the right presentation for that, but if we really want to wake people up and make sure we get their attention.
It's just a matter of, are you going to get the right people there? But you know what, honestly, I was thinking more about this, but the more that you guys are grabbing a hold of this, the less influential the parents and other family, the enablers become.
Good point. Good point. Yeah, good point.
But I do think, a phone call could be good.
Judiciously, I'm just...
No, I'll absolutely make that happen. We were planning on sending something out Friday afternoon anyway, just to kind of give everybody awareness. I will certainly add my voice to that message. So you guys will be hearing my voice.
Mr. Silverlake.
I'll be the voice of Silver Lake on Friday afternoon.
Sounds good.
So, and then, in lines with vaping, I know that we are moving forward and really did a lot of research on putting the vaping devices in our bathrooms, and Michaela accurately depicted that we had some concerns with the original system, that you were receiving a lot of false negatives. And so when we contacted the company, like Michaela said, they said, no, we'll send out new equipment, in which they did, and we have put in the new equipment. And now we're still receiving the noise alerts, but we're not receiving the vape alerts. And maybe that's because students are aware that the devices are in there, and we've done a number of searches.
Chance of vandalism, just knowing they're there and damaging them?
We have cages over them.
So
We thought of that.
Have you had anybody purposely bring vape
So-
products in to make sure they're recorded?
So that's what I had a
We use
conversation.
cologne because it does the same thing.
Yeah.
But yes.
We tested out the
Yeah.
original one to see the response times, because we wanted to know, like, if we could walk in and have it be an immediate
Yeah, like how
response.
quick it was.
Was it something that was going to waft up and 3 minutes later we get a notification? So that was really important in our first piece. And the response time is actually really immediate. And so now we're going to do another test of the new system. Like we said, we just received them, we just put them back in, and within a few days, we're getting the noise, and reactivated them. But we haven't been getting the vape. So we're gonna go and just do a quick test of that with our resource officer, and we'll certainly report out at the next meeting. But again, all these efforts are a combination of efforts to really make sure that vaping does not become entrenched into our building, or buildings, I should say. And it's best to, like I said, educate and be proactive, and that's what we're trying to do. And it's to help and protect our kids, which is really our first goal every day, is to make sure our kids come and they're safe and we protect them from these things. So moving on from vaping, Providence Bruins. We had our Providence Bruins. Our choir went down and sang before the Providence Bruins game on January 3rd. Sang America Beautiful. We had 40 students. I want to thank Sandy Foley and our 40 students for singing Center Ice. It's a great event. We also have our talent show that's coming up. Our students are already busy rehearsing for the talent show, which is Friday, January 31st. We have our History Bee January 13th, and our Geography Bee is coming up on January 27th. From our History Bee, we have sent students to the Nationals in the past, which is very exciting. So we do get excited for these things, and it's a great extracurricular activity that really tests our students, and it really gives them another avenue to participate and really showcase what our students can do on a different level. So I thank Mr. McKenzie for supervising and coordinating the two Bs. And the Kennedy Space Center, we have 38 students that signed up for the Kennedy Space Center trip that's going May 20th to the 24th. We'll spend 2 days at Kennedy Space Center and 1 day at Universal. Really excited, 38 students, and that opportunity, and that was offered to any student in the 8th grade that wanted to participate and be in Science Research Club. They call it now the Space Research Club, because they're researching different NASA missions, and then they're going to go explore that hands-on when they go down to the Kennedy Space Center.
Nice to see that trend and tradition continue.
Absolutely. I'm very excited about it. And, the kids get really excited. And I'll just say, because I know I make sure I go on these trips for multiple reasons. And part of the thing that fills the cup for me is that, like, when I went on the New York trip, which I'm really happy it was in the fall, because one of the things that came back from the New York trip is that the kids that were on the New York trip couldn't wait to talk to me in the hallway afterwards and see me have conversation around the New York trip. And then their friends start talking because they're talking to me, and it's these things that really help foster those relationships, and I always knew that as a teacher, what you do outside of the classroom at times is just as important as what you do inside the classroom. So when you showed up to the game, or you showed up to an event, or you made things happen for them, and that continues to be one of the things that we pride ourselves on here at the middle school, and with all of your support and Joy's support, it's really been a wonderful thing that we're doing with our students. So I again thank you guys for that. So thank you.
Michaela actually truncated her report. So Michaela, would you like to go back to your report?
Yes, please. Superintendent Blackwood. So on behalf of...
Sorry. The most inopportune time.
I did not know.
She walked out on me. On behalf of Jim and I and all of our staff and our students, Joy, we just want to express our heartfelt thank you for your dedication and service to this district. We are going to miss you. We wish you all the best in your retirement, and we just wanted to publicly acknowledge all that you have done for our students, and thank you for that on behalf of the two of us in our schools.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you,
Joy.
Joy.
Quite a party, so.
We did.
That was
We have
pretty
some
amazing.
beautiful flowers here.
Yes, all student made. And leftover cupcakes, also student made, so please take some for the road.
And it was impressive. It was impressive. I was most impressed that I have no idea how they pulled it off, and I never got a single email. I still don't understand how they did that.
Fantastic. Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
All right. On to our school district business. Christine, how are you?
I am fine. How are you today?
Thank you.
Well, if you had a chance to look through the package, our financial is included in there. And there's actually not too much to report tonight that's out of the ordinary. Our budget's holding up to what's actually happening. And as we learn new information, we make adjustments to our encumbrances and things like that, just to make sure we're in line with what we believe will be for the end of the year. Right now, in total, we have a handful of deficits that equal $5,400. So we're doing okay. That's all I have to share, unless you have any questions.
No news is good news. Any questions?
Thank you.
Christine?
Thank you.
Jill and Joy, I know that we've already done the budget. Did you have anything additional you'd like to mention at the meeting?
I'll go to the absolute end if that's okay.
That sounds fine to me.
Great.
You have prerogative tonight. Moving on to reports for standing committees, the SLEA.
Thank you. So one thing I wanted to mention to the committee, I was having lunch the other day with a substitute teacher, and I, a little bit tongue-in-cheek, said, "Oh, are you looking forward to that big pay raise?" And she was actually really excited about it. She said she's saving up for a trip. This is a younger substitute teacher, and it actually did make a big impact for her. So, we've had some trouble retaining subs, as I think you may be aware of, and having teachers covering classes. And I think the increase to the rate is something that may help to make a difference for subs staying and not looking at other districts and trying to get those covered. I know that that's an adjustment that was just made, and I'm sure you won't be looking at making another one anytime soon, further than what's already been discussed. But just going forward, to be aware of trying to keep those competitive, I think would be a good thing to try to make sure that we've got qualified subs and the teachers who are out have something that's being done with their students rather than just asking other teachers to cover. And then I also wanted to, on behalf of SLEA, also congratulate Joy on her retirement and thank her for her many years of service to the students in the school district. We were very pleased to be able to award that scholarship, which will be given to a deserving student in the class of 2020 in the spring in her honor. And also, I'd like to publicly welcome Jill to her new position, and we're very happy to see Ryan come on board as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Admin review. There's been no meeting of admin review since our last meeting. CTE, Chris? No meeting. Okay. The chairman's report. I feel like I almost said goodbye to you when you first announced your retirement. On my time on both committees, I've definitely grown as a person and as an educator for having known you. But the biggest impact that you've had on my life is the impact you've had on my children's lives. And there is no doubt that a superintendent can impact the students in the classroom. And when I walk through the halls of all the buildings, I can see your touches, and I'll see them for years to come. And that will be the legacy I remember you by, is the impact you've had on our kids. And I thank you, and I wish you the best.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Legislative agents report, I think I've already covered that. Negotiations and employee relations.
We've got executive session tonight.
Very good. PAC?
No meeting.
No meeting. Our first meeting of the new year will be early February. Okay. Policy. We're all done with policies for a little while. Right? There's always new policies coming down the pipe, but right now. Revolving funds? No meeting. Okay. Safety, facilities, fees, and revenue. Just had a meeting prior to this.
We did. A couple of things. The work on the roof at the high school is about to be completed, and next week, the company that can issue a warranty on it is going to come and inspect and perhaps warranty the roof for a period of time, which is very exciting. The committee has worked for the past couple of meetings on a capital plan this coming year. We'll bring it to the full committee next month. We're looking at continuing the repairs to the middle school and high school. We are looking at replacing the tile floor in the auditorium in the high school, which is in very bad shape and actually have people physically tripping on it now, so it's actually a safety concern. We're going to talk about the building a garage, the CTE team building a garage for the middle school. There are some supportive items for the parking lots and the athletic grounds. And then we have some equipment items that would be in the capital plan, as well as technology. So the end result is we're going to be bringing a capital plan of $775,000 to the committee next month for review and approval.
Great.
And our E&D can support that number.
Thank you, Paul. Any questions for safeties, facilities, fees, and revenues?
I would just like to add that we won't be getting up to towns for the capital plan. E&D is the friendly reminder.
And I'd like to add that I remind officials in town that the school is paying for their own capital improvements.
Thank you for that as well. Really appreciate your leadership on that committee, Paul. I don't think people, aside those of us in this room, frequently realize what an important committee that one is. And your leadership with your experience on the committee as a member and as the chair has been invaluable. Thank you.
And I thank you for that. And I really, to sort of echo your comment, we really have a large revolving list of needs that, the committee sees periodically and the towns perhaps should see more frequently as well. And it's very difficult to select with limited dollars what to do because our needs, if you had to put them in tiers and the top tier being the most important, 85% of what we're talking about is in that top tier. So every year we have to pick and choose and bump things down. You bump them down very important things. So it's wonderful that we've been able to support things. Wish we could support more. But there really is a very vast list that we're charged with as a full committee. Looking at and evaluating need over need over need and choosing what we're going to support. So, as long as we can do it, as long as dollars are available, we'll continue to move forward and support what we can every year.
I walked up the door this evening saying silver lining, silver lining. I never thought I'd hear that the repairs to our roof are almost completely.
Yeah,
It has been a process.
yeah, that has. And God, we're going to miss you so much. Joy has done a wonderful job of working behind the scenes with so many different contacts and contractors in various people to make things happen faster, better, cheaper. You know, there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes that administration's done, and Joy's done a wonderful job with that to help make the capital plan dollars go further. So, thank you for that.
Absolutely.
I apologize, it just occurred to me, I'd like to make a move to accept as a donation a floor scrubber that Paula and her husband are donating to the middle school.
So moved. Do I have a second? Second. No, that beat you to it. But I'm glad you're enthusiastic. Any further discussion, questions, or comments?
Just a huge thank you to, because,
We'll do it.
you know, whenever we get donations from the public, it helps, obviously, offset. We can use that money for something else, so it's huge. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
And for Mr. Creed, right?
Yeah.
Write a letter,
Yeah.
appreciation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and also, I mean, when we maintain things, we also preserve other items in our buildings as well that save us dollars long term as well. So we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor? A unanimous vote.
Thank you. Sorry, I should have thought of
That's
that
okay.
earlier.
That's okay. I don't think anybody will get mad at us for
Yeah,
that.
okay.
All right. Thank you, Paula, for your leadership on that committee.
Oh, you're very welcome.
School start times, again, we keep this here as a placeholder because of its importance, and the amount of research continues to build, and we might really need to reactivate the school start time subcommittee and start looking at our own school start times yet again. It's irrefutable at this point, and again, we are letting California be the guinea pig for the nation with school start time adjustments, so hopefully we'll have some large pools of data to examine and see how it's affecting their students. Treasurer's report. How you doing, Mike?
Good.
All right, buddy.
So Christine, is it 17 or 16? Because
Of the number of warrants, there are 14 regular warrants,
and then the three. Okay.
and then the payroll.
So we have 14 regular warrants totaling $895,183.76. We have three payrolls, or two payrolls. Total payroll is $1,554,066.07 for a grand total of $2,449,249.83.
Thanks, Mike. Any questions for Mike? All right. Union 31, Mike, do you have anything to report?
Just that we voted the new assistant superintendent, Ryan Lynch, to join us, and we're very excited about that. So, welcome, Ryan.
So as the chair of Union 31, in that capacity now, could I ask you for us to consider a date potentially to sign his contract and ratify his contract moving forward? And Jill, do you have a tentative idea of when you might be sitting down with him to propose a contract?
I can sit down with him as early as tomorrow if you'd like. He knows that from here on it might move rather quickly,
Right.
and the sooner the better. And we would both like him to be able to start at the beginning of February.
The beginning of February,
So.
right. So today's the 9th. So that potentially would give us some time to meet. We need to be able to post though, and Plimpton's interesting in posting, right? So the earliest we could probably meet again would be the 15th or 16th of next week.
Who needs to be there?
It would have to be a joint meeting. Okay. So we'd need a quorum with both committees? Would it have to go through admin review before we meet? That's what I was thinking.
That's a sentence.
We have a meeting right before that.
Yep.
But you also asked me a question.
Right. So we could do the admin review literally right before. So still looking at the 15th or 16th potentially. If everybody around the table could look at their calendars and see if either one of those dates potentially works for them.
Christine, would we be okay for joint budget at that point? We should be okay for joint budget.
15th doesn't work for me, but.
The 15th does not work for you?
No.
Okay. Well, the 16th is typically our night. Does that work for you, Paula? 16th, Thursday next week? You okay? It'd be quick, I promise, right? Watch me. No. Okay, so let's post admin review for 6. Right?
Yeah.
Does that sound good? Who's on? It's you and Laura's the chair of that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I do 6:05?
How long do you think you would need?
So we're just
Do you
reviewing the
want us to
contracts.
also have our schedule for 6 and we'll just start when you're done?
I think so. Yeah, we'll just say
Does that
6.
work?
You know, like we did tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Here. Here.
No.
Does that work? Can we do that?
We did it
We can do
tonight.
that, right?
I can post both as meeting it simultaneously,
Yeah.
if that's what you want to do.
And in this building?
Yeah, you
Okay.
just meet simultaneously and
All right.
then
Book the room.
Concurrent.
fold right into the next.
Okay.
But
Does 6
admin review is, you're gonna, for the agenda, I need to know, are you just gonna review
We're going to
the,
review and approve contracts.
And Lisa, just before, and I know you always do, before you send that out, can I just see the agenda for the
absolutely.
joint, just in case I have to add anything to it?
yes.
Don't we have to add something pretty good on the nurse?
Yeah, exactly. So we'll need
Shared
the,
cost, right?
we'll need the nurse leader and we'll need the shared cost budget.
Right.
So it's, quick question, so is Ryan given the 2 weeks or 2 weeks notice or 30? Is it coming in 2 weeks?
He is no longer working
Oh, okay.
in Situate, so he does consultant work, so he's all set. He already gave his notice. Yep,
Thanks.
Things are lining up.
yes.
It's been a long time. I appreciate everybody who's moved puzzle pieces, but things are starting to line up very nicely for us. All right, so we have scheduled an admin review and joint meeting of Union 31 in the region for Thursday, the 16th of January at 6 p.m. right here. And hopefully it will be short, efficient, and sweet. All right, do we have any single signature warrants?
Yes, we had 17 warrants totaling $2,804,384.14 that were signed by Laura Tilton, Chris Eckler, and Eric Crone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura, Chris, and Eric. Appreciate it. All right, so Joy?
I'm not going to say much because I'm getting a little emotional, but I do just want to say thank you for 14 wonderful years here. It has truly been an honor and a privilege to have been your assistant superintendent and your superintendent. So I will miss you all. I not necessarily miss all the meetings, but I will miss you all. So I truly appreciate it. And I know I'm leaving everything in great hands going forward. And I know she's going to continue all the great work and to provide all the supports. And I really want to also thank the Teachers Association. Truly it's been an honor and a privilege. And it has been an interesting journey for me. As I was going around, I'm sort of amazed I'm not sick at this point because I think I hugged hundreds and hundreds of people, literally hundreds and hundreds of people yesterday. But how many of them spoke to what mattered to them? And I think it's very much what you were saying, and I think it's being present. It's, giving them a hug, knowing if they're having a bad day, taking the time to meet with them if they're having a licensure issue, coming in for a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, a shoulder to cry on if needed. And it's really developing those relationships because that's what's matter. We are a people job here. It's all people. The buildings are important, but what matters is what's in those buildings, and that's our staff, it's our students, and the humanity of it is what matters. And several of them asked if I could still, because I have the school emails, if I could still send out the, I always send out notes before every holiday, before every break, and they're all like, but you have to still send them the notes. So it's those things that I think touch, I hope have touched people's hearts, and I know my heart has certainly been touched, so thank you all.
So on behalf of the communities, can I have one last hug?
Absolutely. Although, no guarantee, I don't have one. May I say one more thing. There's a gentleman sitting over there who my husband has never met, but should, because I think I have spoken to him more over the years. Fred and I start many a day. We're both morning people, so often between 6 and 7, my day starts with my buddy Fred. And, you know, I have to say that the committee is very blessed to have a legal counsel who is so incredibly responsive. You know, I feel I can call him on anything. He keeps us on the straight and narrow, and has definitely provided the district with the know-how and the professionalism that we really need. And you are so fortunate. So many superintendents I know, every time they call their lawyer, they don't call because it costs them money. You know, so it's these ongoing, and then they step into it and it really costs money. So Fred is really, he has a wealth of knowledge. I cannot believe the things he remembers, because he's got 63 districts, I think, that he serves. But he somehow has the ability to remember it all, and truly it has been a treasure to work with him. So.
I appreciate that, Joy, and it's a sincere pleasure working with you these last 14 years.
Thank you. Thank you. And obviously the town. So, you know, Carl, I will miss dearly. He suggested I stay till March 15th. So, you know, and Fred, I've really appreciated the town's support. So, you know, we're really lucky to have the towns who absolutely do everything they can to support the schools. So, you know, again, in talking with other superintendents, they're not so lucky. You know, we've worked really hard to develop that trust and that communication, and again, I think that's what makes it work.
We're going to have to do this again Monday night.
Yeah.
And my next statement's going to seem so bland again. I will entertain a motion to exit from regular session to enter into executive session for the purposes of discussing the Silver Lake Education Association, Silver Lake Administration Association, and Silver Lake Support Staff contract negotiations pursuant to Mass General Law C30A S21A3 and update on superintendent-elect contract negotiations. We will only return to regular session for the purposes of adjournment. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Okay, it's a roll call. Mike?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Ed? Yes. Eric?
Yes.
Myself? Yes. Thank you very much.